What are we doing tonight?
Talking about the truth.
We doing the podcast.
Damn. Plug it in.
We alive and we live.
But
Back with mind high.
But we're not really live. It's pre-recorded.
Predestined.
Was it, how's the No Man's Sky? What's the word, how the game works?
Procedural.
Yeah, it's procedurally recorded.
He said procedural at the same time. Like, procedural.
Yeah.
Dude, I was reading about that. There's 90 companies that are responsible for global warming. Like they're the ones that have really fucked up the earth.
Yeah.
And let me guess, they're very, very rich. They have amazing lobbyists in all the governments, and they're really the ones making the calls, man.
All the good stuff.
It's probably all the resources stuff that we mine and stuff.
Probably, yeah.
You know, they play a role in it.
Yeah. They keep making fun of Donald Trump and how he keeps talking about bringing back the coal jobs. Like, what the hell?
That's like that's opposite of what what's the Tesla?
Elon Musk.
Elon Musk.
He's the anti-Elon Musk.
Elon Musk should go for
their slogan posters are hilarious. I can't recall what it was. You want to search it? Like the
sure, that's my job.
Like when he's doing his rallies at I think wherever. North Dakota or whatever, like I think with Obama they shut down a lot of these plants, and so it's what is it called?
You see that? Comb over to our side.
But look up the slogan for like the coal. This is pretty funny, and like when you read that, like damn, these people are that stupid, like that level of ignorance and that level of. So like this goes. I guess we can tie this to our conversation that we were having in our own group chat about the truth. You know, like I had this like visual of the truth. You know, let's say if you had like if this universe was inside a bubble, whatever, and that bubble being the ultimate truth. You know, so I mean we can break it down into one or two levels. That bubble. Whatever that, you know, the Big Bang area, whatever, that, you know, so there is a God that created all of this, or there isn't, right? So you can start off with those two truths. And for instance, let's say if there isn't, right? So all these people that are believing in this, you know, biblical stuff and praying and going out of the way to do these things, no matter what they do, they will never hit that truth. You know what I mean? And there are people. Let's say if even Big Bang, it's not the complete truth, but it's getting us closer to the truth. You know, we're using evidence to get to it.
Yeah.
But even we might be wrong about what the truth is. But at least we're trying to use what's, you know, what we can see and observe, and use, you know, adding those maths up to see what that formula equals to the truth. So no matter both theories could be wrong. But no matter what, does the truth always remain the truth, or does it also fluctuate?
I think there is an absolute truth which we might not be able to reach, but it's out there. It might be really far away from us. For instance, when we talked about the fact that, you know, how the planets and stars really far away from us, like on the horizon, are racing away from us, right? So there will be one point where we will not be able to see any of them.
Right.
And we would just look out into the black void and think like, hey, there's nothing here. And if you look at old history books, we'll be like, oh, they said there was this here and that here, but there's nothing here, so they were wrong.
Right.
So this information, and if it's further than the speed of light, means that we'll never be able to see it, right? The gap between us and that stuff out there, the truth, it's now gone. So
like the truth is almost racing away from us.
It's racing away from us. So we are no longer able to access it.
Right.
But it's still there. But it's still the truth that it is out there. So how do you, that's where it gets a little tricky.
So does truth become relative to each time? Got you, Shaz.
I mean, it becomes relative.
But it's still wrong, though,
But it's
right?
still wrong because the real truth is out there. Like, you know, God could be so far away from us that we could... we could understand. No, I'm just saying. For an instance, let's take an example that there is a God,
right?
And we explore the entire universe, and for some reason, God exists outside of this bubble,
right?
And it's not part of our universe, but He's there.
So we can no longer prove it.
Yeah, we can no longer prove it or disprove it. So what do you do at that point?
So if you, then you have the two two systems that you have now, then you will, one, have faith that there is that God outside the bubble, and then people will say, no, based on these observations, I can't conclude there is, so I'm gonna just stick with what I have. So so that can just change the course of the universe in a sense, because then let's say looking at our planet and where we're going with technology and tech, religion in a sense does slow down science, because you know how like Neil deGrasse Tyson always says, like, space exploration, it cannot be done by private companies, it needs to be done by governments, because they have the most money, they have the most backing. Whereas like Elon Musk, if he fails or anything, if he loses money, then that whole system is gone. Whereas the government could lose money in an experiment, but it's taxpayers' dollars. It's not like they don't have any shareholders that they have to go back and show profits of. Because like it's a waste of money. You literally spend billions of dollars sending a probe up, and you will get no return of investment back. So it's not something that private people can do. It needs to be done by government. And then if your government has a lot of people of faith, then they will feel like it's a waste of money to we will. I mean, every time there's budget cuts in our politics, it always comes out of NASA. Space programs keep getting slashed each year over and over and over again. And you can probably look up how many used to be a couple billion, and they reduced it down just to $1 billion or something like that. I'm not sure, I'm just making it up. But it's gotten so small that we're not allowed to do, so we're very limited how we spend this money, whereas we should. So we're changing the course of understanding the truth, right? Because this thing of faith's going to hold us back, whereas science can add evidence and knowledge and information and get closer to the truth. The truth is racing away. So the clock is ticking in a sense, and which side is going to win?
Yeah, that's a big question. But I think with education, you would hope that people that are that fundamental kind of start to see the light, because it seems like that is the trend.
The old school people in power are still in play, and they're the ones that.
Well, they'll be gone pretty soon. I mean, our generation, it seems like our generation's a lot more open-minded. Of course, education is a key point in there, and it's a lot more diverse. So we see people of other races continuously. So we're open to a lot more ideas. We're more connected than we've ever been. True. So I'm pretty optimistic that in a few generations, I mean, we're going to see a very different change and outlook on how we move forward.
I hope so.
Hey, this one mind-blowing thing Neil deGrasse said on one of his, I don't even know if it was him or one of the scientists that he had on Star Talk. They were talking about putting up these, somebody asked a question, is it possible to put up a telescope so powerful that we can see the birth of our own universe?
Right.
So can you imagine having a telescope out there, and it's looking so far back that it can see the birth of itself?
Right.
Isn't that nuts? You see yourself being born.
So like, can you create a telescope where you can see yourself being born?
Yeah. When you see for instance, if we see the moment of the Big Bang, obviously we won't see the moment before it because there's no light.
Right.
So when the Big Bang happens, there's light. And if we can capture that, we're literally looking at ourselves being born. Yeah, that's nuts.
The wall that we have hit at the moment is that the farthest we can see back is where we just see a bunch of gas clouds now, and the gas clouds are so thick that they're not letting the light behind it escape. So we're only seeing the light that came after those gas clouds. So that's why with this new gravitational detecting, they're hoping to use that as a tool to see if they can detect anything beyond all those gas clouds and see what the gravitational waves are telling us what's going on in the back. So that's another tool to use to see.
That would be awesome. On that same podcast,
so what was his answer? Obviously,
he said yes. It's theoretically it's possible, and it should happen pretty soon.
It just, if we keep moving in the right direction.
Yeah, if we keep our telescopes keep getting stronger, seeing further, it's only a matter of time. But
what's the new telescope that's going up? So people listening in Google.
Yeah, what is that? Do you remember the name? It's the James Webb.
James Webb.
Yeah.
John
Webb.
John Webb. John Flush telescope.
John Webb Adams.
John Bluff.
Launch date is October 2018.
Can't wait.
How much did they spend on that? Some crazy amount.
Yeah, it's very expensive to figure that out.
Yeah, it was, and compared to Hubble, it's like what crazy amount, like 5-10 times bigger.
That was nuts, man. They sold Texas or something to Mexico to get that up there.
Really?
They sold Alaska to Russia.
After about $3 billion had been spent and 75% of the hardware was in production, funding was restored and capped at $8 billion as of winter 2015 to 2016. The telescope remained on schedule for an October 8, 2018 launch.
Jesus. Yeah, people should YouTube like videos on that. It's just kind of breathtaking to see. I mean, Hubble has already provided so much crazy information to us, and this thing is, I forget, like 10 times bigger than that.
Yeah,
if not bigger. And what the hell is this thing gonna see? And amount of level of detail in HD. It's gonna be awesome, man. Oh, NASA last week released a video from the Curiosity rover. You can go and sorry.
Yeah. So the compared to the Hubble Space Telescope, which started in the creation and all that started in 1972, it cost about $300 million, or about $1 billion today, around from 2006. And the amount they spent on this, it ended up costing $9 billion.
Yeah.
So that's incredible. And let me find out how much bigger it is, but you guys go on.
So NASA like 2 weeks ago released like an image from their Curiosity rover of like a 360 shot of Mars. And
that was amazing.
Did you guys see it? You can go on YouTube and you can
amazing.
You can move around.
Yeah, you can control like the video and see what you want to see. And that's what kind of No Man's Sky gives you, man. You get this dead planet, it's just full of rocks, and you're like, where the hell am I, you know?
Yeah.
But like to see that in that level of detail is remarkable, man.
It is.
It's a huge achievement of our species to send this robot to send us like an image through satellites. You know, that image traveled through space and took whatever months to get here. And that level of detail is crazy, man. Like this thing about an image is broken down to packages and flies through space, and you get this fucking...
Yeah, it's fucking incredible.
I'm just trying to think of how they did that. Like,
it's unbelievable, man. I mean, even the fact that this little pebble left Earth and went billions of miles. Is it? How many miles would Mars be?
Billion sounds right.
Let's just say billion. Went like billions of miles and hit its orbit and landed.
Yeah.
I mean, to that accuracy is incredible. Yeah. That they're able to shoot it with a gun almost and just get it right there.
Yeah. And then to go there and then send back video images, like how is that?
It's the most psychedelic shit ever.
Yeah, like you're consciously attached to another planet via satellite. You know, the people that are there controlling this Curiosity rover and doing experiments on Mars. Their conscious is attached to that joystick or computer, and that, you know, image of what their brain is telling the machine to do goes into their input of their fingers, which translates to the keyboard or joystick, whatever they have, which translates to a satellite, which fires that signal out. You know, then that thing receives it, computes it, then moves forward.
It's incredible. There was another image of Jupiter. I don't know what rover. It's not a rover. Whatever satellite that's in that area.
Uh-huh.
So it took this picture of Jupiter, and you see is it called the red eye or something? The storm?
Yeah.
That huge storm.
It's been going on forever.
For like ever, yeah. Since we've observed it, it's been there. And they show like one of the moons of Jupiter, which is maybe the size of slightly bigger than our moon, and it looks like a little dot.
Yeah, imagine that storm. It's like a tornado, if you will, right?
Yeah.
So real quick, when you guys are talking about how far Mars is from us and how far the signal is shooting from between us and the rover in Mars, you guys said it was 1 million?
1 billion, he
said.
Saying
billion? I'm just throwing
200, yeah. So on average, it's 225 million kilometers.
Okay.
So, and at its furthest away point, it's 401 million kilometers.
Yeah. Not even a billion.
Half a billion is what I meant.
So that's not
almost
that amazing.
Half a billion.
So that's not that amazing.
So
it gets amazing when you hit 1 billion.
I take it back.
Take it back. Get good.
No, it's crazy, man. But play No Man's Sky.
Play it.
Oh man, I was watching. I don't know. As a kid, I just love watching like I think it would be around like 7 o'clock. Sometimes not having cable, like
Let me
having.
fact check this.
Was he a kid once?
Was he a kid
He
once?
was born this way.
On PBS channel 11, at least here.
Arthur.
No, like they would show a lot of videos of like lions in Africa and stuff like that, and I used to love watching that growing up. And on Netflix the other day, I was just scrolling to watch whatever, and I came across like the wildebeest, their migration. And I remember as a kid watching that, it was probably the coolest thing I've ever seen. And to see like a newer version of that was amazing. So like each year, there's like 1.3 million wildebeest that have to migrate to, because the season's coming, is raining, so they can have fresher grains to eat, whatever. And their whole migration journey, so many predators are just killing them along the way. And it just, have you ever seen one of those?
No.
It's one of the coolest things I've ever seen. And then to see it with information that I have it was kind of like weird. Like you see these living things that are just trying to go to point A to point B, and they have to cross rivers. As they're crossing rivers, crocodiles await them, and they're just killing them on the way. And they prey the smaller ones, which are younger calves. And they were showing how that whole herd gives like birth like to 500 new kids per day or something. They're just breeding like crazy, and there's new and out of all
the party.
Yeah, and out of all the creatures, the wildebeest are the ones that can stand on their feet like within less than a minute, because they're just surrounded by so many predators that they need to start moving, otherwise they're gonna die. But what was the weirdest part was, so you have this herd just after they travel a certain distance, they'll stop, and you have like the lions and cheetahs, the hyenas will come, and it's like imagine 1.3 million of them, just like a sea of these creatures just standing, and then all of a sudden a collection of atoms that will be lions will come and say, "I'm hungry," and then they will plan on taking one of them down. It's kind of barbaric as hell when you watch it. Like what is nature? Like these things, like the way they grab them, like they bite them in the neck, and then as soon as they go down, they all just jump on them, and all their friends are standing there and watching their fellow wildebeest just dead, and just dying, crying for his life.
You're saying how's the wild and these animals any different, but how are we any different?
Yeah, so you can take it to, just watching that was just so barbaric. And then, like you see them like cutting, they don't show much of it, but they show like, you can see they're biting their guts and then pulling out their intestines, and this thing is just dead. And then after they're done eating off it, then a bunch of vultures and birds will come and they would fight for it. So there's so many wars that happen between a dead carcass. Like first it's like the bigger animals, then after that you got your birds, and after that you got some insects or whatever. It's just like a garbage cleaner, if you will, that decomposes all of that down until all you have is bones left. Yeah. And if you think of it, just a bunch of atoms that came alive as wildebeest, and the other atoms just want to eat it.
Yeah,
and then that gives them energy.
Yeah, and it just I don't know, it just seems cruel. Like that's what nature is, and we do the same thing, like eating a cow or eating a chicken.
And you got to say we're far worse, because we have animals, they just have instincts. Yeah. It seems like they don't have the ability to choose, and they have no other choice to survive. They just, through evolution, they know they got to eat this or that, and that's it. But we have the ability to choose, and we've actually come up with ways to eat lots of other different things rather than meat, but we continue to do it. And I love meat.
And they're eating it to survive, and we're eating it. We've evolved to a point where we're eating it for luxury.
Yeah.
Not even just food and getting, our source of protein, carbs, and whatnot. It goes even further that, there's a lion killing a wildebeest. For us, we're killing each other. That's like, go turn on CNN, you'll see the same thing happening. Syria, Lebanon, all these places were just getting bombed in these wars, and we're just killing ourselves. And I mean, it was the saddest thing, and this is kind of on a tangent to tie this in, but I believe this was in Syria, where I believe a bomb had just, I don't know exactly who, a bomb had just gone off at this family's home, and they were just able to pull out the one boy. That's it.
The famous picture that's been running around. Yeah, it was a Russian airstrike.
A Russian airstrike?
Yeah, because they were trying to attack, obviously ISIS, and they kind of attacked where a lot of the bombs fell where a lot of civilians were, and they show that one famous picture of that one boy sitting just full of dust
Just
and blood.
shocked, and he's not crying, he's not doing anything. It's just become, this is, I guess, nature. This is the human nature, if you will. So we're worse. We're far worse than lions and all these animals. You know, they're eating to survive, and that's in their DNA. We are.
But that's what nature is. I mean, we've evolved to a point where we still have those genes that nature gave us, and then we're using our understanding of surviving. If anyone's different than us, you know, depending on color, race, or geography, if you're not from the same land, or if you don't speak the same language as I am, there's these things that go in our brain that say, you know, alert, you know, like this thing could possibly kill you.
Something about that just doesn't ring true to me. So for instance, one of my best friends, he's from South Africa.
Right.
So he grew up in this culture, which it's black versus white, you know, that's just how it is. And he comes into America, where I've grown up very not racist, you know, I like to believe. And, you know, sometimes I hear him talk and I'm like, what are you talking about? You know, I'll just try to tell him, like, dude, we're all human at the end of the day. We all have brains. We all have this, the color, the culture. None of that matters. None of it should matter. I mean, you know, at the end of the day, what I try to preach is that we're all human beings, and we should all work together and, you know, get out into space, go explore, and better us as a human race, all of us, and try to better us all at once, not just
there's a lot there's a lot of people that think this way, the intelligent people in the community, but the problem is they don't want to be leaders, they don't want to be president, they don't want to be in politics. That's a problem. We have the people that are in politics just want power,
right?
And the people that have the ideas for these incredible changes, like take Elon Musk for example, he's not interested in being president. That just doesn't seem like something he'd want to do. He doesn't want power, so that's a problem. So it seems almost like the system is broken because it garners towards people that want power, and that really doesn't move our race forward,
right,
or our species forward.
And to kind of like the stuff that you were saying, I think a lot of the other problem is that information. Why are people making these decisions? It's because they lack a lot of knowledge and information. Once you have information, then you would be making probably the right choice, right? Once you understand how your brain works, then you can kind of break down what your decision works. So you can, if you do have feelings towards a certain race or certain whatever, you can break that down from a neurological aspect, and, you know, say, hey, what is my brain doing? You know, why am I being programmed this way? What happened in my history that I'm thinking of doing? Once you start doing those, and you start getting smart, I guess, knowledgeable, and you will make better decisions in life. So if you don't have the information, then you're gonna think, well, I am right this way. And going back to, I took a ride, like a Lyft ride from work one day when T-Mobile offered it for free, and this guy was he was like this cool guy, and he was kind of, you know, we started about talking about Trump, and then we went too far as, you know, like the usual thing that we talk about, and I started breaking down things, and, you know, he started saying about certain things about racism, and I was breaking that down. And he was kind of just blown away of my responses. You know, they're neutral, but they're at least I try to aim for the truth. And, you know, and then what is the truth? What I think is the truth could be wrong, right? So then you would have to break that down and figure out what your brain's processing. But that was a conversation. But another thing I want to say, going back to what you were saying, how people power don't want to, you know. So I called, since we are doing this podcast, I called one of our family friends. I hope he listens to this one too, so I can convince him. So I was telling him, you know, what we were pretty much doing as a show to just come out and talk about like things that, you know, make us curious, and, you know, and hopefully encourage other people to do the same thing. And he's a scientist. He's taught at he was a scientist at UIC. He was doing a lot of he has a PhD in biology.
Wow.
And now he's a professor and teaching just like science classes in City of Chicago schools. But so I call him and I'm like, this is what I'm doing, and I would love to have you on. You know, we can talk about whatever field of subject, whatever you want, and, you know, help, you know, whatever subject you want to talk. You know, we can do a little bit of research on our side, and we can bring you in, and we can kind of dive into it and help spark some of the stuff in people that listen. You know, his first answer was like, oh, I don't know about it, man. Like, he went right into it. He's like, So like the thing with me is like science equals evidence, whereas your listeners might be people of faith. Think because we're coming from a Muslim background, and he's like, it's just gonna be too hard for me to do that because he just feels like he feels uncomfortable talking in any shape of radio or podcast, and his voice is out there, and if someone else listens to him talking about non-religious things, that it's gonna have a backlash on him and his community. So because of that, he doesn't want to do it. So I told him that could be a podcast on its own. Like we can talk about why that is an issue and how that shouldn't be an issue, and why do we have to hide ourselves just because we think differently. You know what I mean? And so like this guy, he is really smart, and and it just sucks that he's not willing to come on and talk because he's afraid of other people finding out that he's not religious.
That's like the Greek philosopher Aristotle, or who was the one that discovered that the Earth was round?
Jesus.
No.
Anyway. Talking about Galileo?
Yeah.
Was Galileo the one who discovered the Earth was round?
No, it's Christopher Columbus that literally, I don't know, he at least documented.
Look that up right now.
It says
that's how America
the
was
discovery
founded.
that the Earth is round is most commonly ascribed to the ancient Greek philosopher Pythagoras.
Pythagorean theorem.
And while the credit
to the Pythagorean theorem,
it is usually given to Aristotle. Anyway, what if like he never came out, whoever this was that discovered this never came out and was like, oh, the Earth was round? Because wasn't he persecuted against for stating that oh no, the Earth is round, it's not flat? Weren't like people going up against him? That's like the same thing. If you're not speaking the truth and you just want to stick to what's common and what people already know and what people want to believe, then we're never going to move forward, because we do not as a species have all the answers today. We're far from it. And the more we can stir away from upsetting people, the better.
And it was kind of sad for his response too, because I was really looking forward to it. I felt like he was gonna do it. Like I'm like, it's gonna be fun to have him on, and we can just talk about science. And then his other response was also that a lot of his colleagues will never, they shy away from these things like that because they just don't want to, I don't know, they just don't want to take part of, because there's so much ignorance that comes with it, because you have to fight a lot of stupid people. Because if you make an X amount of claim, then you have people that don't understand, and then you have to fight your way through them and try to explain them things. And I think he was saying a lot of his colleagues don't, scientists think the same way. But I'm like, why don't you listen to our first episode and see, the layout that we have, and I would like you to reconsider. And so he's gonna listen to it and see. Hopefully he can change his mind. But at one point I was thinking maybe you can just stay anonymous, and we can literally just have the whole thing about how him hiding behind that he is religious. And then the why like why do we have to do that? Why are we so it's like, even for me, like I'm more open in my house than I ever was before. And it just, I don't know, I just feel like why hide that? And part of it is scary too, because if you really think about it, like if this is aired in Saudi Arabia and we go visit it, we're not gonna come back.
No.
they're gonna if they find out who we are and what we're talking about, they can just arrest us and just keep us in jail for whatever.
If we go where?
Saudi Arabia, Dubai, Pakistan,
Dubai
you name
too.
it.
I thought they were a little bit more for it.
No, there's some scenarios where some Americans went there and had like a couple of grams of weed on them, and they've been in jail for a couple of months.
What?
Yeah, because it's not allowed there if you break that law. And then you have to get the whole diplomats and all that stuff there involved to get you out of there. It's crazy. But
so the scientist that you asked, he's religious?
He's not.
He's from a religious family.
Not
so.
Everyone's
not
from a religious family.
Yeah, not. I mean, I don't know. I haven't met most of his family's back home, but I mean, within the community itself, you have to kind of hide that you're.
I can totally see that.
Awoke.
You woke as fuck.
That you're woke.
Because it's very similar to how my dad reacts to anything I say. Yeah, he loves having the conversation, but then every time at the end, he's like, "Okay, don't be too loud with this, or talk to others in the community about all this,
because they're gonna cut you off."
Yeah, so which I don't really care about anyway. But
if you really look at the context and what we do for a living, then it might shine light on why he says what he says.
It might affect the product. So like let's say if you have a bakery and you're selling it, and then if people will, if you're part of the community, if you have the same whatever your target audience is, if you gotta relate to them. As soon as if you don't relate to them, then they're
it's like if you had
that's your niche.
It's like you had a Jewish bakery and you want to sell kosher meat, but then you don't really believe in Judaism and you're like talking science. You're like, okay, how do I know if this meat's even kosher then?
Yeah.
By the way, Jewish people are the most unreligious people ever. By the way.
Jesus, whoa.
No, I mean I mean that as a compliment. They don't take their scripture literally like every other religion. They really, I mean, it's the oldest religion as well, sort of in a way, and they've matured past that point.
Not the oldest religion, is that what you just said?
Not the oldest, but the oldest
of the Abrahamic.
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
And they just don't take everything literally, and they kind of just look at it as lessons to follow in life.
And good Lord, look at I almost said Palestine. I meant Israel. Like how incredibly advanced that country is. They were founded at 1947 after World War II, and their economy and just what they're able to accomplish in just such a small area is.
But there's a lot of political stuff that goes into it too. Like a whole podcast on its own. Why they're so successful. Right. They have a lot of backing of superpowers and
billions of dollars being poured into it. But then you could say the same thing for like a country like Pakistan. They had quite a bit of federal aid going to them, but just a corrupt government, and didn't trickle to the required spots. They just, oh my goodness.
Wait, man, when you talk about Pakistan, you look at guys like Nawaz Sharif, you just listen to him and you're like, what?
I'm smarter than him.
Like, what the fuck is going on? The guy is like 400 pounds or something. He never makes any sense. Like, apparently to get elected, he just goes to like these old villages and just gives them free food and they all vote for him.
Biryani and whatnot.
That's how low the standard is.
It's a broken system.
So Pakistan is a podcast of its own too. I mean, so we'll stop talking.
Lots of future podcasts coming up, guys. Stay tuned.
Israel, Pakistan, Pakistan. I mean, it's got that same pop.
Another thing, is a different topic. Will be how you said you bought new headphones.
Yeah.
It just kind of made me happy that you invested in such a thing, because like.
Thank you.
Yeah, now I want it. No, because like I was thinking about the other day, like music is just so great, man. Like if you, depending how into you really are, like for me, I can just zone out and just go wherever the hell I want.
Yeah.
And before I used to think that traveling is the most important thing in life, because you have to go see a lot of things. I've come to realizing that I can just put on headphones and I can get the same
sensation.
Yeah, same sense of awe, if you will, from traveling. Because in order to travel, to be realistic, a lot of us, not most of us, are not privileged enough to travel wherever we want, whenever we want. You have to save for it. You have to figure it out. And when you
open up the time for it.
Yeah, once you go there, you gotta have a budget. You can't come back broke. So like. But there are some people that will go all out and spend their life savings on one big trip, and to them, if that means all to you in the world, then go for it. But I don't know. I feel like we have to spend so much energy saving up money and time, and then when we travel there, that whole the nuance of I'm traveling or I'm going somewhere kind of builds up to you to once you get there, it builds up the expectation, or you should like it, and so you kind of do like it. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So we don't have the luxury just to go anywhere and to get this true understanding of whatever. So anyway, I can put on headphones and just go on a drive and just zone the hell out, and I could literally be in Earth, but I could feel like I've gone out of our solar system, if not our galaxy, and I've seen things that no one else has seen
completely,
and I get so much awe. So would you rather have awe like every day, like even if it's smaller chunks, or would you work your ass out and then get one big awe? It's just
one big awe.
All right, time to go home. So I don't know. I think music, people should like tap into it more. And the reason I was happy that you bought these cool headphones is because music's so big to me that you got to have the right quality of speakers to invest in that.
100%.
Invest in good quality audio that when you're listening to the bass and like each layer of sound that it has some sort of chemical reaction in your brain that you truly feel. And
So with music, something that's even crazier is like listening to music is beautiful. But bring your brother into it. You actually write your own music. You play your music, and I play an instrument as well.
right,
And that's a whole nother realm of satisfaction when you can literally emote yourself through an instrument.
and then you can see, you can kind of experience the stuff that you created and see not only you get the pleasure of it, but other people getting the pleasure of it as well.
So something I just realized right now. So me emoting exactly how I'm feeling that day. Whatever I'm jamming out on my guitar. So basically, when you listen to someone else's music, you're experiencing them, their life, what they're feeling, and what they want you to feel. So it is like traveling to someone else's mind, someone else's heart, and their environment. So music is very important.
And then when you listen to that, you travel into your own world because your mind is also infinite, and you go deeper and deeper into your own mind, and it triggers different feelings in you, and you start thinking of different things. It's very cool.
Yeah, to add on to what you said, when the artist is making their music, they're adding their emotions and whatnot. Mm-hmm. So I don't like songs. I mean, not that I don't like it. I prefer songs that don't have lyrics anymore. It's because if there are lyrics and it's already my trip with this song is already narrated, right? So I have to stay on course to what the artist is telling me.
You're gonna love Inside,
which is a game.
Yes.
So like I like songs that don't have lyrics in it because the sounds are creating some emotions, music is creating emotions for me, but I'm in more control, versus lyrics. So on the way here, I was listening to my playlist, whatever, and I had this crazy, I don't know, it happens all the time. Like it was sunset, and I'm seeing the star, I'm seeing our sun, which is a star, and seeing the light of the sun hit me, thinking the photons. I think it takes like some 30,000 years for these photons to escape the sun, and it takes another 8 minutes for it to travel and hit my eyes. And these things have been in nuclear energy, just fusing for 30,000 some years for me to come on this highway on the way to do this podcast, and they're hitting my eyes now.
For you to light the way to the truth.
And
this podcast.
And then I had that feeling of like how this energy of light is, and and I'm gonna be dead and gone, and there's other photons that are in there fighting to escape the sun to hit someone else's eye. Maybe in 30,000-40,000 years from now, I'll be dead and gone. No one's gonna knowing who the hell I was in this universe. But there's a fusion happening in that sun right now, and I can kind of see from the outside of it, but I'll never see that light anyway. And the second thing was as I'm going on this highway, I felt like I was a passenger of time, and everyone that's sitting right next to me, we are just these consciousness just floating through time. And I saw time as like a loaf of bread, and I'm like this really thin slice of it, and
very thin, like a
flake. Yeah, flake of slice.
Flake of slice.
And all these consciousnesses that are riding with me are gonna be gone, and I want to be gone.
Yeah. Something you just said, I want to tie back to when you were saying that I'll be gone, no one's gonna know who I am. Do you think that? I always think like, how amazing would it be if somehow we could leave a mark on this earth so that people do recall, like Michael Jordan, no one's going to forget him for. But do you think an amount of time that even something like that big of a public figure would also be forgotten? That
if we all are gone, they'll be forgotten.
Yeah, but no, I'm saying like if you keep going 40,000 years from now,
I think so. They'll be gone.
But even what's the point of even that? I'm not saying you shouldn't, but even leaving a point and you're gone. So what is it? It's not like you're dead and you're looking back at yourself and you're like, oh look, I left a point.
It's like you kind of live.
You're gone. You're unconscious forever.
But the way to live on forever is through memories. So if you can't, if my name can stay afloat in the conscious and it keeps traveling that way, then I do live on in a sense.
It's kind of
in a different sense. I know we talked about that, but I thought about that again. But you're gone, so what does it matter that your name lives on? Doesn't mean that you live on.
So at the end of the day, everything's information, right?
Yeah.
So just breaking this down right now, like you talking, me seeing you, like everything is information that's going in my brain. So if my information, which is my history, continues, isn't that the same thing?
Well, okay. So if you say like X equals your name, right, and then you yourself are made of in so many different atoms and configurations, that's gone. only your name is left. So that's not exactly you. That's just what you are called.
But
so there's a difference between that.
It's not exactly me, but anything that has to do with my information, that is my. So let's imagine that I'm a flash drive, and anytime someone taps into it, you get some sort of data out of me, right?
Yeah.
So let's say my picture, I'm dead and gone, but there's a picture of this universe that somehow keeps me there forever. And anyone that sees me, you're tapping into that flash drive in a sense. You're getting some little bit glimpse of, of my information, if you will.
But without awareness, does it matter if you're not aware of that anymore?
No, but you still have to be a human form, I'm thinking, or some robotic form. Anything that can understand. Even if a lion passes by and he looks at that and doesn't understand it, it's still information that went into his head. That was
I don't know, man. I'd rather just live forever. as me.
But
not just a name.
You're following me or no?
I'm getting it completely. More than a flash drive, the most basic format of your information, of your thoughts being transferred on is a book. Yeah. Think about like these, books. Like look at the Bible.
Right.
Whoever wrote the Bible or, anything, whatever.
But that's your ideas being forwarded in time.
But that's your information, your thoughts being transferred straight into me.
But there's a difference.
Like we're having a conversation.
But there is a difference between your thoughts and you, yourself. There is a difference. You are not just your thought. Are you saying you are just your thoughts then? If you say that, then
repeat that again. I didn't understand.
Well, he's saying that a book is like a time traveling tool. So you write a book and then, for instance, a Bible, and then hundreds of years later, thousands of years later, people are still reading your thoughts and your principles. And if you're saying that that's the same as you living on, whoever wrote the Bible, then are you just your thoughts?
No, I'm not saying that it's still you as a thing. It's still your information. I'm not saying, like, I could take a piece of your hair if I can preserve it. That's your information that I preserved, and your DNA is in there.
Right.
And in fact, the longer I preserve it, in a sense, you will. Whoever encounters that will know that's your information, so you don't disappear from the history from the time. You know what I mean?
Okay, so what you're saying is that
in order to be remembered in time, you got to have some sort of information about you.
Right.
So if that information disappears, then in a sense you have disappeared because there's no one to perceive your data. So even if your thoughts are, if you have a blog or if you have a book that you wrote down, that's information that you took and you put it down in a book. So that's your information. Even from your, brain, DNA, you can break whatever down in dots and neurons and whatever, and you converted that into a book. That's your information.
Yeah, I'm right with you there. So a part of you lives on forever.
Yeah. So
now what I'm saying is, like, I agree with you there. Now, does it matter as much? Like, it's a great thing to write an incredible book, make an incredible movie, write the Bible, whatever that keeps your name or keeps your information, your incredible principles if you come up with some really good ideas moving forward through time.
Right.
But does it matter to you? I'm not saying it's a good or bad thing, just saying does it matter to you because you are gone. You're no longer aware of anything that happens here. The connection between you and this world that's perceiving your knowledge, it's cut. It's a great thing to have your knowledge out there.
Right.
It's a great thing. Your name is still there, but you're not aware of it anymore. You're gone.
Could it be that, that some information that you had wrote down, you sparked a movement? Like kind of
E equal MC squared.
Yeah. So kind of
Einstein.
what Karl Marx did. He was gone, but he had a book that sparked something freaking Adolf Hitler that changed the world for good.
Yeah, that's...
So you can still, your thoughts can still move on and spark changes.
Yes.
So who knows? So to me, it would have mattered if I was still alive.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But it doesn't matter to you.
I would be happy.
But it's an amazing thing.
I think it does matter to me. I would want, even if I'm dead and gone, I would want some sort of my information still out there.
Right, but it matters to you right now.
Yeah.
It matters to me too. I would love to leave a name, but once you're dead, it doesn't matter to you. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, it does.
Unless there's an afterlife.
You can say it does, but everyone who says that, man, I want to leave my name, I want to leave a mark on this world. Yes, you do. But once you're dead, you don't give a shit. You're gone. It doesn't matter.
You give a shit a second before you die.
Yes. That's exactly.
Okay, yeah.
So should you not do it then?
No, actually, no. You should totally do it. You should totally do it until the moment you die.
Oh shit!
Then stop because you have no choice. But just one thing that's been bugging me, and this is gonna kind of change course a little bit if you guys are okay with that.
Let me cut off your mic.
No, again, going back to another friend of mine that I was speaking to, and He's not religious.
South Asian.
Does he like music with no lyrics? No.
No, but he's not religious by any means, but he feels like he should be. And I was talking to him, like, and we were just discussing some of the things, like, that there is no afterlife. That if you can't perceive what there was before you were born, then after you're dead, your brain, again, is shut off. It's turned on when you're born. It's turned off when you're dead. There's no blood going to it, et cetera, et cetera. How, the brain cannot function anymore. So there's no afterlife. You literally do just lay in your grave, and as scary and as bleak as that is, that's the truth. And that is exactly why religion made this afterlife, because it makes it so much easier to cope. Otherwise, you're like, oh God, I don't want to die. I don't want to die. I don't. And then it also, with the Bible, the Quran, all these religions, they also talk about the afterlife, that, someone passes away, and goodness me, that's such a sad, sad moment. But again, you can relate back that, oh no, they're in a better place. And I hate the fact that people live in this delusion that when you die, you're gonna go through your trials and tribulations, whatnot. But then it's like almost like they describe it as a terminal, that all the people that you've lost are at like this airport. Oh look, Shaz is here, and they're just gonna be waving at you like, oh my God, yeah.
Welcome back.
Like, okay, you're welcome. And that sounds awesome. And how much easier does that make dying? I'm like, cool, I'll go right now, whatever.
Yeah.
I'm down. That sounds dope. But that's not the reality. And people, and I just don't like it when people talk about. And I started talking to him about it too, and he's like, "No, Shaz, there is." I'm like, all right.
But look, people like people that were making religion were smart. You got to give it to them. As a business strategy, what they're doing is they're telling people what they want to hear.
Right.
They want to hear like what happens after that. But the problem with religion, the biggest problem with the religion is
it's a business.
That all right, all three of us are sitting here. You could be Jew, he could be Christian, I'm Muslim, right? Whatever. And the thing is, we both need to get up. We both need to eat. We both need shelter. We all need the same stuff, oxygen. Mm-hmm. And then every difference that we have is made up in our minds.
Right.
It's all imagination. It's not really there.
Right.
So this divide is just, it's not helpful.
And then to break it down even further, your friend lacks knowledge and information.
That's why giving him that.
But it's kind of hard. It's really hard to reprogram or share new information to people. Once you're an adult, it's really, you already accept the reality for what it is. So any other new information kind of contradicts with what you have. So it's a lot tougher to have an open, honest conversation with those type of brains. It's a lot easier to do with kids because they're open to anything. But as you become an adult, you're constantly programmed. This is what reality is. Don't question it. Don't question it. But anyway, I mean, religion had its purpose, to be fair, it had its purpose in time. And why do people believe in afterlife? You would have to go back as far as when we first evolved from monkeys to, Neanderthals, whatever, and the other Homo
erectus.
Homo erectus.
The other homos.
And you really would have to see it from their perspective, right? Like they had limited information. They didn't know what day and night was. They just knew that night equals darkness and predators. So go climb a tree or go hide in a cave and block it with a rock. And then if you're walking and some predator or someone died of a disease or whatever, you had no explanation besides some spiritual thing that you had to create right there and then. That's the root of it all. And then not understanding where they went after this, because when someone died and you have no idea, and you were a monkey your whole life, or your ancestors were
or a homo.
You were a homo your whole life, and you finally wake up. No, imagine being in those era and then just go from one generation to another, and how the evolution of thinking was becoming. And when someone dies or someone gets a disease or someone, has a rash and we did something, or we were walking that path and we took a bunch of berries and maybe that's why, this God or whatever this thing punished us. Let's not do that again. And then that becomes a part of a practice of religion. And then you take that 150,000 years forward and then you come to this point in day and age where that's still that understanding of the past, which was wrong, is still continuing, and slowly people are waking up.
So is it almost that you do your best to explain it? So how is it that we're so far back still? That's what kind of annoys me. It's like we're still stuck.
We're stuck because these are the unknowables. You know, for instance, if you have any Christian prophet or Jewish prophet, and he's telling you that, okay, this is what happens after death, right? Now, how would you believe him? Most people are like, all right, really? Wow. And they believed him? Like, wouldn't you want to know, like, hey, how do you know this? Like, nobody asked, how do you know this?
Right.
And then they're like, all right, God told me. I'm like, all right, I want to hear God too. Wait,
Yeah.
God only speaks to you? Only you.
Yeah.
Why can't I hear him? You know what I mean?
So one
Strange.
thing that all these main prophets or gods, if you will, Jesus, Moses, and Muhammad, they're all very charismatic. So you can see that today. You can see people like Trump just being charismatic and speaking to people and changing their beliefs that, hey,
He's
no.
a very strange charismatic, though. What do you call that?
Ooh, Trump?
Yeah, that's like a strange kind of charisma. I don't know what you would call it, like a bully or something.
I think he's just some spoiled ass kid. That's what it is, man. I don't know what you call that, but
Evil.
I don't know.
I don't think he's evil. I mean,
He's just stupid.
Yeah, yes, dude.
That's a stupid charismatic. But what I was trying to say was that all of them share that common trait that they're all very charismatic. They everyone that describes these prophets,
And some didn't even exist.
amazingly amazing. But they were just, everything they did was perfect. And it's so, like, if someone that just, like, again, we'll go back to Michael Jordan. He just beasts everyone. Everything he does is perfect. Everything he touches goes to gold. Everything
Sean
goes
Murray. He got
too
me.
soon.
he got paid.
But yeah, so like you would think that anything like, okay, this is how you get good at basketball, and you just believe him.
This is very true because Sean Murray is pretty charismatic for a game designer, and everything he was saying, I believed him.
The business model.
He got me, guys.
And
Fell
He
for it.
got.
when I would watch his interviews and whatnot, it felt genuine. Like
Yes.
it felt like this really brilliant programmer that's really trying to do something that's really passionate
Yes,
about. And,
exactly.
And that's why part of me feels like it was
Betrayed.
not betrayed. Like I just feel like it was such a small team. He really had a big vision that he couldn't deliver because I'm sure Sony was on his ass. You know, they have to get this game out sooner or later because they probably even saw the game and saw, holy shit, if this word gets out, we're gonna lose, more money.
Hurry up
And
get
it
it out.
it sadly became about more than money than art, and that's where it went wrong.
Yeah.
And that, I don't think it's majority of his fault. I'm sure it's the money that he's taken from Sony that he had. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's kind of like Silicon Valley where he has that vision of what he wants Pied Piper to be, but then it just becomes about money at the end of the day, and they don't care about his vision anymore. You know,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
then when you sign a contract or whatever, now you just have to play this stupid system of money that they're trying to
You
make.
sell yourself out.
It's not. I think
Kinda, yeah, you do. I mean,
think
if you have a vision and you're not delivering what,
but you
vision
don't have the
wanna deliver.
resources either sometimes, right? So then, in order to do it, is to get backing. Backing is shareholders, and shareholders is when the hell is this game going to come out?
so we can get our money back.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think it just came down to that, and he kind of ended up biting his
Sad.
tongue. But I think he was. I feel as I don't know. I could be wrong. Maybe he's a douchebag.
A duke.
Dukes of Hazzard. But I was gonna.
Maybe he is a dookie.
I was gonna say something about the other topic we're talking about religion.
I love religion.
What were you saying?
One thing I wanted to say, if you want to go back there, maybe we'll spark the thought that you had initially.
Right.
But was that right? You ready?
Yeah. So I remember.
Darn, I was gonna say. Go
It's
ahead.
Sparked a thought real quick.
So part of it is this brain. This term that I probably already exists, but it's brain failure. That's what I feel like. There's a point where certain information comes to us in our brain, and we just have a failure of understanding it. So we retreat or we resort back to our understanding of whatever the subject of reality that it is. And when you're having a conversation with your friend, right?
Mhm.
He's having a brain failure in his brain where he can't comprehend this information, so he has to resort back to what he feels is true because none of that information makes sense. So I feel like even everyone has one, even smartest, the dumbest. if Einstein believed, how he didn't believe that God rolled dice, so like quantum mechanics wasn't his thing, even though it came out to be more true than he thought what it was. He just didn't like that idea. So he, in his vision of what his reality was, he didn't like that idea of it where everything is just random, where it's not predictable. So then he had his brain failure where he would defend his idea and not, be more open-minded to, maybe he was open-minded, but from the things I've understood that he didn't, that's where his famous quote comes in, where God doesn't roll dice, because quantum mechanics is random. He likes a universe where he can predict things, and he can say, if I know the math, if I understand the math correctly, I can tell you exactly what's going to happen. Let me just figure it out first. Where quantum mechanics is a random thing. So we all have our own fair share of brain failures. And when we're having those, I think it's important to, stop and understand. I think some people once should look up neuroscience and start reading how our brains really work. Kind of opens the door of understanding of how your brain processes information. And from there, when you are having a brain failure, you can kind of break down that process. So if you can give me a topic, and let's say I disagree with it, like you don't like No Man's Sky, and let's say I do. So maybe one of us is having a brain failure of not understanding or perceiving some sort of information, and we're gonna be so protective of this information. I could be wrong as hell, but the fact that I'm not open-minded, I've resorted to this information now, having this neurological failure in my brain to be more open. So I think people need to understand that, and when you're having it, to stop and openly listen to that information that's coming in, and then rather than come to a conclusion with blind faith, come with evidence.
I don't think that it's certainly just your brain's failing. I think it's not as complex as that, and it's even more simple that they're just choosing not to, because he comes from a Christian family, right? And his mom, they all go to, and his little brother's actually really religious. So they all, and he's like, I wish I could be religious like him. And so is he just choosing not to understand it? When I'm explaining it to him, he's nodding his head, he's getting it. And then he's just like, no, but this cannot be, kind of reaction where he just chooses not to.
I feel that is a brain failure, because again, you're not open to any new information because you're so.
But then also think about it this way. Religion kind of steps in where science kind of stops, because you get into the realm of things that are unknowable, right? Religion deals with things science cannot prove or disprove. It deals with afterlife. It deals with the concept of God. These are things that science will never prove or disprove.
Right.
So this is where religion just comes in and starts explaining it as best as it can, and comes up with, it's just stories, right? Because it's things that we can never know. It can't be tested. There's no experiments.
Right.
So religion, because of that, it's possible that it might exist forever. But the whole thing is that some people, like I was talking about Jews, what they do is they don't take it that literally. They just take it as a step where they can look at it and kind of look at the morality of life, what's right and wrong, but not take those stories at face value and be like, this is how it is, this is the truth. No, it's just some guiding principles, and there's some hope in there what might happen after death, and you can take some comfort in it. But you also got to keep in mind that it's not the absolute truth. It's not science. It's not been documented. It's not been experimented.
That's not majority, though. I would say, yeah, out of all the, I mean, probably Christianity's evolved to that point too, and so is Hinduism. The only one that's lacking that's Islam.
Islam, yeah, and the youngest religion as well.
Yeah, but then there's another discussion that we had on our group chat. Faith. Like, is faith good then? Like, is it okay to be that type of person where you just have faith in things? Well, any decision you make, do you make it out of faith, or should you make it out of best information that you have? And you're deciding, like, for example, you have this Coke or Pepsi in front of me, and then you have Pepsi and water. Like, which one should I drink? Out of, you can break it down to get crazy as you get, or
to me, it's like a two-prong problem with faith. So one is, like, it seems to me personally that being faithful in something at points, the way I'm thinking of it, can lead to laziness. It's like, for instance, if you're making a business decision,
right,
and you're saying, all right, you know what, I'm just going to leave it up to faith. But you could go and do the hard work. You could go and do all your research, reasoning, and come to a, educated decision rather than just leaving it up to faith. So, but then there are other things too. You could have faith in people. Now, I can have faith in you for something, that you're gonna get this done or you're gonna be on time, which you're not.
Right,
But I could have trust in you. I could have faith in you because I know you as a person. Now, I can't really, I don't know. I guess I can't really calculate that and be like, all right, this is why I have faith. I guess I could. I mean, I could look at your past history and our relationship and all that.
yeah.
So there's two different ways to look at it. I mean, there's even an emotional component to faith.
Right, but again, with faith, if you were doing a school project or whatever,
Yeah.
and if I was always late, if I was always on time, but since I was your best friend, or if I was your cousin, or if I was your brother, or if I was your whatever, you're just gonna have faith that I come through, and I. But if you look at the past history, if you look at the evidence that is in front of you, you should not be partnering up with me. You know what I mean? If you want the best possible grade, then you're probably better off going with someone that's more serious about it than I am. But there's you resort to this faith, thinking that maybe I'll change my way, I'll change,
Actually, that's a really good way to put it. So that means that in any case, other than in aspects of unknowable things like God and all those crazy afterlife stuff, anything in this world outside of that, you can actually, rather than have faith, you can do your research and you can reason.
Information.
Because the other way, just having faith, it's kind of lazy.
It's just flipping a coin,
Yeah.
I like if you own a business and then, if you have a brother that knows that's not reliable at all, but you have this faith that one day he's going to wake up and he's going to take part of this family and, help me out the way he should and be a productive member of society. Maybe he is, but he isn't, but we're just giving the story. But I think faith it's just a coin flip, if you will. You're just gambling on idea,
right?
And you're hoping that it pays out. That's what gambling is.
Absolutely.
So,
and it could be completely wrong. Like, take the Aztecs for instance. When the eclipse happens, right, and it's all dark, they had faith that if they sacrificed their dead, they killed people, they sacrificed the blood, and that the sun would rise again.
Right.
And it did rise, of course, the next day.
Yeah.
But they had faith in the wrong reasoning.
Yeah.
So faith can be very wrong.
So is faith just as gambling in a sense, where you are, when you're betting odds on, let's say, roulette, and you were betting on red 19,
Yes.
So is having faith a sin then?
I guess it's not a sin, but it's not very helpful to you. I mean,
let's say if you are religious and maybe in Islam where gambling is a sin, maybe it is in some shape or form in other religions. Let's say if you have faith, is that a sin?
That's hilarious. So you're saying, for instance, in religion, especially Islam, gambling is haram, right?
Which is equal sin, right?
Which is kind of like just having faith in just some randomness.
Number, like I'm gonna bet on this horse and I have no idea, so I'm gambling on this horse.
Yeah.
So that is essentially what faith is, though. What is gambling? It's either gonna go one way or the other, and that's what you're saying is.
Well, I feel lucky. Like I was gonna be red, and I'm gonna put $100 in red. I have faith that this color is gonna come out. So,
and you have no reason to think that it might. It might, but there's no reason for you to think it will either.
But even so. Then my next question, like I said, is faith sin?
Being religious is sinful.
I don't think gambling is a sin anyway, right? So I don't think faith is a sin, but I do think that faith is.
How do you? So when you're gambling, it's just putting money on it, and then faith is not putting money on it, right? Is that the difference then?
Okay,
like I have faith on God. I'll bet you $1,000. That's gambling. Now let me just take the $1,000 away, and then that's faith. What's the difference?
I guess for me it would be that if I have faith in anything, I just would have data to back it up.
No, like
you would have evidence.
Let's just talk from like a
gambling sense.
No, like from religious sense.
Gamblers.
Let's say if I was religious and I believed in whatever shape or form of any religion, and I just can tell you I have faith in God. That's faith, right? I have this feeling that this thing exists, but then as soon as I say I'll put $1,000 on it, that he's real, that's gambling.
Yeah.
I'm asking, what is the difference? As soon as you take money out of it, it becomes faith. And as soon as you put money in it, it becomes gambling.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at it that way, there's no difference, right? Because
besides the money part, right?
Yeah, in one, if you lose, you're losing money, right? If it doesn't turn out to be the way you bet,
right,
you lose money. And if it doesn't turn out to be the way in the other case,
my faith was wrong.
You lose your faith. I don't know, something like that.
I'm not gonna. So, what is the definition? Can you
So faith basically means that believing in something without evidence. You just have full faith. You have full belief without needing any evidence for it.
What's the
Pretty
definition
much.
of gambling?
Okay, so faith, first of all, complete trust or confidence in someone or something, strong belief in God or in the doctrines of religion, yada yada, and gambling. Definition.
Same sentence with
Play
money.
games of chance for money, bet, take risky action in the hope of a desired result.
Sounds like religion.
I wish I go to heaven. It's my hope, my
Yeah.
desired result. Interesting. I've been sinning my whole life, guys.
Yeah.
Damn, you're going to hell.
I have faith. I'm going to hell. It'd be funny. Yeah. But then, I don't know. So, like, the other day, this past Friday, I was at work. And I was leaving work. And I had this crazy. I have these, like, once or a couple of times a day, if not. But sometimes they're a lot stronger than normal. I call them, like, the what the fuck moments, where I just stop and, like, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah.
That happens to me, yeah.
I was walking in the pedway. I was, going underground system. I was going to another building. And as I was walking, I just had this illusion where this is normal. Like, people expect this thing to be here out of convenience so they can get to another building, just without the result of going upstairs in traffic. And then understanding that I'm in a city with buildings, with, cars, airplanes, that I'm in a planet that's flying. This planet is the first time I'm here. And then God knows where we're going. Like, this realization of, like, holy shit. Then I just kind of felt like I was wasting my time, and I needed to leave and go see my daughter and, just go hug her.
Yeah.
I don't know, just weird as hell. And I have these sometimes when we're having meetings at work. I'm like, the big
I gotta go hug my daughter. Shit's getting crazy in here.
Well, like, some of the realizations I have is I just picture the Big Bang, the start of the universe, and then somehow this meeting led up to this meeting at work.
Yeah.
Like,
absolutely.
like, what the hell is the purpose?
Yeah.
Like, boom, Big Bang. Like, you had this crazy explosion with these gases and clouds that turn into stars, that turn into galaxies, that turn into, and everyone's flying away from one another, and it led up to this point where I'm having a meeting at work. It's just and the realization of, like, none of these people get what's going on right now. We're in a spaceship flying 16,000 miles in the orbit of sun that's flying shitload of miles per second. It's just flying into what's the word? A biblios, whatever.
It's almost like we're in, like, a simulation. Everyone is, like, plugged in, and they're just not there. They're just not all there. And I've noticed that so much. You conversate at all about any of these kind of subjects, and then they're not.
They don't connect with
They
you.
they wouldn't even. It's like they would not even understand what you were saying. They'll see you as crazy. If I was just to repeat the same sentence I said, like, I'm having a what the fuck moment, they'll just think I'm crazy. Like.
That's the crazy part, that they don't have those moments.
Yeah.
And whenever I have those moments, right, and like you're saying, so I'll just picture us on this piece of rock, and we're just going through this dark void, this huge dark void, and there's like a piece of fire which is keeping us alive, like a fiery rock.
Like
and
roasting.
then I start to think, like, how strange all of this is, and what the fuck is all this? But then I begin to think, like, what if it was something completely different? It could be anything else that I can imagine, and even that would be, what the fuck is this?
Yeah.
It could be anything, and you would still have that same moment. You could be anywhere,
Right.
in any reality, and you would still have that moment.
Like, how do you know any of this is real? And then I was thinking about colors too. Like, how do I know these colors are real? Like, are we just evolved as human beings to see these colors? How do I know if there is a true universe and there is such thing as a true color?
Well, do you know how much of the light? Look up what percentage of real light is visible. It's like something really small.
It's small, yeah. So I was looking this a few days ago. So there's a spectrum of light. You have your gamma rays, X-rays, ultraviolet, then the visible light that we see.
Real quick, sorry.
Visible
0.0035%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How crazy is that? Not even 1%
Yeah.
is what we see. So yeah, we don't see reality
So
in the
2.3% of the whole electromagnetic spectrum.
So, like, another crazy thing is, like, it's crazy as species, you evolve to see the spectrum of light that helps you evolve. So I think it was insects or bird. They see ultraviolet light,
Mm-hmm.
and the reason being that is because it helps the color of the flower stand out.
Yeah.
So I think it's insects or hummingbirds that they see this because if they're flying around, then it's easier to everything will be just grayish in the background,
Right.
And the flowers will be just neon bright, and they'll stand out, so they'll know where to go pollinate.
A very different reality.
So they need to see that in order to go pollinate flowers and survive. Whereas we have this 3, what is it,
Green, blue, and red.
Yeah, in our back of our eye that senses these lights, and we put these images together.
The color receptive cones, correct?
Yeah. And then you take the snake, for instance. At night, I think the cobra sees everything in a very strange hue, almost like night vision.
Right.
And anything that's emitting heat, like animals, it can see it, so it can hunt at night.
Oh, another animal, real quick. So you know how we have the 3 different color receptive cones: the green, the blue, the red. Then an awesome animal that we talked about before,
Shrimp mantis.
the mantis shrimp.
Shrimp.
Shrimp the mantis.
Shrimp.
It has
mantis.
not. It has not 3 but 16.
Yeah.
Come on, man.
Yeah, I talked about this. I said that
Yeah,
if I could just have one day, I just want to see the world as a shrimp.
The shrimp, the mantis.
The mantis shrimp.
Man, I can go for some shrimp.
Probably go blind.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you don't even know how to perceive that information.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like what is all this?
So-
Get me out of this. I'd probably go crazy.
Like, think about how wacky the colors would look.
Yeah.
It's like if you turn up the gamma all the way up on your screen and just
It'd be
all
like
nuts.
ultra boom mode.
Probably, yeah, more than that. Times
Yeah.
100.
So when we
Yeah.
see a rainbow of just the 3 colors, they would see like a thermonuclear bomb of light and beauty. Is what this website says.
Yeah. God damn.
So going back, since my sister was in town from London, me and my brother were having these conversations, and then I don't know, we're just talking about alternate realities and stuff like that, and like that whole free will topic again came into my mind, and how I realized, for me, I don't believe there is free will, but then I was just, while explaining to her about free will, I came to understand what free will is, and I was just telling her that this could be an infinite space, infinite timeline. There could be infinite you. There's for each decision that you do or don't do, there's those realities, and they could be possibly true, and they're happening, and they're synced into this moment. There's infinite realities where you don't exist, and infinite realities that you do exist. There's infinite realities where you don't become 21. They are, you know what I mean?
Right.
And they go on forever. And going back to relativity is, in a sense of free will, none of that matters, because if whatever is relative to you, that's your reality. So it doesn't matter if you don't have free will, because even if my whole life is scripted, if there's infinite me and this one dies at the age of 60, right, and of all the yes and no's that I did in my life, and I had no choice in those things, but it doesn't matter, because relative to me in time, this is my reality, and in this reality I do have free will, even that free will is scripted. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know if that made any sense. But
No, I follow you. Yeah, and I've kind of moved on to that too. I know we had that debate about free will,
yeah.
and I've kind of slowly moved further and further towards the idea that we don't have free will.
Yeah, I don't feel like we do, but I just came to acceptance of that even if I do or don't, it doesn't matter, because it's only relative to my experiences, and I will never know.
Yes.
You
Yeah.
know? But,
Yeah, it's pretty much a conclusion I came to.
It doesn't make me sad. It doesn't make me happy. It just makes me more
It just is.
appreciative
Yeah.
of even understanding that.
Yeah. It's quite incredible.
But so you have nudged over the
Yeah.
why? What was the what information that got into your brain too?
That's a very good question. I think mostly it was the idea that before I was always thinking that, even if I make a decision,
Right.
and even if it's not under my control fully and I make a decision, it leads to an alternate reality. And if I can make various decisions and they can lead to, say, an infinite different realities, every decision making a different reality,
Right.
even if there's an infinite possibilities, it is still following like this snake path or whatever. And really, I mean, when I was thinking about like if you meditate for a second, if you just, for instance, if you wake up in the morning,
Right.
and you just sit down for like 5-10 minutes and just don't think anything, and just watch your thoughts in your brain just streaming,
Yeah.
and they just stream, and you have no control over them.
Yeah.
And that's just bizarre.
That's what I was trying to say in the podcast of the free will. Like when you sit down, like you just realize you're not in control.
Yeah,
you're not in control at all of your own brain, and it's just bizarre that it has decision making skills to the subconscious level, where like an hour from now you'll be having Pepsi because that subconscious thought of Pepsi. The Pepsi is sitting in front of my face.
Yeah.
It is that level of decision making and it's just an illusion that I just am in this reality, and then these brains are just doing these neurochemical reactions, and they're leading to decisions and answers. So that's what happens too when you have that conversation with your friend. Like his brain has received X amount of information, and his responses are going to be based on his past history. Mm-hmm. If he hasn't pursued more newer information, he's always going to conclude back to the older information. You have to understand what open mind is. First, he need to build on that, then start reading information, and I think one thing will lead to another, and that's how you evolve as a human being.
Yeah.
But then again, this is whatever reality of snake you've been given.
Right. But going back to that free will thing again for a second. So when you sit down and you have all these streaming thoughts, so the one issue that I had, and I remember we talked about it, was that I don't know what the source of that initial thought is, right?
Right.
That's streaming through my mind. But then I got to thinking more and more, and I've been listening to a lot of Sam Harris, actually. I think that's the only podcast I listen to right now.
Yeah.
The Waking Up podcast. And so he actually did get into that. So that's what kind of changed my mind. In one of the recent episodes, they started talking about the initiation of that thought and the fact, like, what is the difference between, what really makes you you? So when he started talking about it, I realized, what makes me is when I'm aware and conscious.
Right.
The subconscious me is not really me, because it's only me when I am conscious of that, of what's going on. So if I'm not conscious of where that thought is coming from, that's not me anymore. And it's just coming, it's being fed to me by whatever is a part of me, but it's not me fully.
When you are subconscious of that subconscious, and repeat that again.
So what I'm saying is, like, for instance, if I just sit down here, right, and I take 10 minutes, I'm completely quiet.
Right.
And I just watch and observe my thoughts stream through my mind.
Right.
And they just keep coming in. So my question was, where's that thought coming from? And is that thought possibly being triggered by me? But you realize that it's being triggered by your subconscious.
Right.
And the subconscious is not really you, because you're not in control of your subconscious. Yeah, your subconscious controls you rather than you control the subconscious. Right. It's the other way around. So that's when you realize that you don't have control. It's
funny because before we had that podcast about free will, I watched Sam Harris's free will speech. I don't know if you watched it on YouTube. Just Google Sam Harris and his free will. It's like an hour and a half where he just goes through the steps of what he thinks free will is.
Right.
And he says the exact same thing. What you're saying is, what is that subconscious thing? And you can't even control it. Even when if you want to say don't have any thoughts, you're telling your subconscious not to have any thoughts, and your subconscious is like, fuck you.
Yeah.
Pretty much. And it just goes on a tangent of other things. And before you understand that you're trying to not have any thoughts, you've gone into the deep 2 minutes of some different dream and, idea, or this is random as hell about ice creams, if you will.
Yeah.
I should not have ate that ice cream. Then you're like, oh shit, I was supposed to be focusing on not having any thoughts. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I've become really mindful of that, especially when I'm brushing my teeth.
Yeah.
Because I start thinking about the most random things. I'm like, how did I get to this point?
It's hilarious. Or like I dropped when I was done shaving, like when I trim my beard, like it just leaves like a bunch of hair on the sink.
Yeah.
And I was just, as I was cleaning it, I was not even aware of I was cleaning it, but I was having these thoughts, and I was just so lost in it. I'm like, who the hell is cleaning this thing? Like I was just trying to like clean the sink up, and all the hair pieces when I was shaving had gone, into the sink. But like, it's just weird. I'm doing something, I'm not even aware of it. I'm just so lost in my thought. Who is just piloting this body? And who even had this idea that you need to clean this?
Yeah.
And
who is controlling you? Who's pulling the strings behind you?
Yeah, scary as shit.
Play Inside Dog and you'll find out. Anyone listening, highly recommend that game, Inside. It's available on Steam now.
PlayStation.
And PlayStation 4. Is it for Xbox One too?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I checked it yesterday. I just was trying to see how much it was. It was $20.
Yeah. Man, so
It's too much for my wallet.
not to spoil too much, but it does deal with mind control, the subconscious, and stuff like that.
Right. What's crazy?
Good stuff.
Now you converted.
Yeah, I did. I converted.
I win.
Yeah, also converted. Also converted back to Islam. I took one step forward, one step back.
One step forward, all the stuff back.
There we go.
That's
But
awesome.
you know that going back to the songs you were talking about, songs that don't have lyrics,
Yeah.
that's why they're so amazing. Because every time you listen to them,
Yeah.
since there's no lyrics, it's a new experience every time, depending on where you are,
That's
what
so
your
true,
mindset
man.
is, and what you're doing. So every time it's like a new experience. But if there's
That's-
lyrics, then it forces you down a certain
That
path.
narrative. Yeah, that's the best way to explain it. It's always a new experience. I listen to the same songs like every day over and over again.
Yeah.
But why is that? That's the best way to put it. I always have a new experience. This funny other thought that I have. So while I was listening to this song, you know, and I was in the train coming. I was going home from work, and this train was packed, right? So I'm just seeing these people, and I'm just looking at them. Man, I'm not gonna see these people. Some of these people I'll never see again. Some of these people, like the Big Bang, you know, I go through that whole process. It had to go 13 billion, 5 billion years, and blah blah blah. This had to happen. The comet had to hit, the dinosaurs had to get wiped, and this person had to walk on this train, sit right in front of me so I can stare at them.
Yeah.
You know, I go through that crazy realization, and then I start realizing, man, everyone in this train is an aftermath of like sex, right? So some of these people were they were conceived because of love, because of accident.
Yeah.
This is fucked up, but some of them could have been raped. Some of them could have been, you know, it's just everyone that's alive it's a result of sex.
Yeah.
So when you start counting all the bodies in the train, like this is how much sex there has been.
Yeah.
If you count the 7 billion people in the world, just damn, people are humping a lot. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? And everyone is just a seed that came out of, you know, intercourse of two people trying to think what love is. And then another thing that I went deeper is then what is love? You know,
It's a good song.
yeah, it is a good song. What is love?
Baby, don't hurt me. All right.
And then it's kind of freaky. Then this is where like I trip out sometimes. As I was thinking of that, the same day I watched a Rick and Morty episode, and the beginning of the show is amazing, guys. If you haven't watched already, so the beginning of the show, like Morty comes to his grandpa and he wants a potion to this girl that he really likes in school. He asks him, "Is there a potion? Is there something you can give me that I can give to her that she will fall in love with me?" He says something like, you know, why do you even care about that stuff? People don't realize love is just a chemical reaction in your brain, and the illusion is to reproduce. So we as species, we have to reproduce to survive, and that's part of genetic nature. And then people perceive that as love and marriage, and then once you are married and you had kids and you're past that fact, then you hate and you resent each other, and you no longer want to have sex anymore because you already done that part and you reproduce, and now you're stuck with these people and you're living. You have to force yourself to live together and to have common understanding. And deep down inside, the way he said it was just funnier, and then I was like, holy shit, that's what I was thinking earlier. That's what I was thinking earlier.
Right.
If you really look at it, love is a man-made concept. At the end of the day, nature is telling you that when you see a different female species or male, different depending if you're male or female, when you see the opposite sex, you have this chemical reaction in your brain that your feelings and you as a man will get erect, and then now your job is to, mate with the species so you can reproduce. That's all that it is.
Yeah.
And then somewhere down the line, as we were becoming more consciously aware, we made this story of, oh, this is love, and then if you think about it, where does the heart come in all of this? When
the heart does nothing.
Yeah, when the whole thing takes place in your brain, And then I was thinking about it, and the reason the heart took over the image of love is because when your heart rate increases. Yeah, your heart rate increases, and you start feeling, oh, maybe this is where love is in my heart. Because when I see someone, I'm breathing heavily. My chemical reaction is going, well, I gotta mate with this person. I gotta do something. I gotta do something naughty.
Damn, I thought of this a while back, but I never figured out why it was. That's pretty cool.
So your heart races because you're having a chemical reaction, and you're just so excited, and that's what you as a male
just
will
can't
get.
hide it.
You as a male, you will get erected. As a female, whatever.
Yeah. And there was a Radiolab podcast recently. They didn't get to a conclusion, but they're doing like various experiments to figure out at what point did sex become pleasurable in our race or Homo sapiens. How far back do you have to go? Because there was a point where our ape ancestors were dying out. They were barely maybe 100,000.
Okay.
And there seems to be, that's where they're focusing. It seems like there was a point there where there was some kind of mutation which made sex pleasurable, and our population just boomed after that.
Holy crap.
Up till today, and we have so many people.
That's what entices them. You gotta
think about it.
them.
If there was no pleasure in sex, I mean, we'd probably die out as a race, don't you think? As a species?
Who the hell would want to reproduce?
Yeah.
You'll just be busy in your own life.
Right.
Because if you look at nature, we're the only species that ties down to one.
Yeah.
Within us, there are a few people that are open to open marriage and stuff like that. But
yeah.
A lot of us, we tie the knot down, saying this is the only person you can mate going forward. If you mate with anyone else, you're either a slut or you're a douchebag, or you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Whereas if you look at polar bears, they go hibernating and they wake up. And as soon as they wake up, they have to mate, and they probably will mate once in their life, and then the male just leaves, and now the female is stuck with this child that she has to give birth and rise on her own and teach her lessons and whatnot. Like, there is very few species in the earth that have a partnership. But even if you look at a lion and a pride, he bangs all the chicks, and all the chicks.
All the chicks.
And we were the same way. If you go back into the Neanderthals and such, so nobody knew whose baby it was. They all raised it together as a tribe or as a group of Neanderthals or whatever you want to call it.
But there was some part, like you said, in our evolution where we became more consciously aware than this understanding of love is like a man-made concept. Where as nature doesn't give a shit about love, it's cares.
Also marketable.
But can you imagine the first ape-like ancestor of ours that found sex to be pleasurable, and there was a mutation, and he's just going around humping everyone? Like, what's up with this guy?
There you go.
You.
God listened.
Yeah, and he just keeps reproducing over and over and over and over.
And here we are.
Then you get to this safe space era where you can't talk about these things.
Yeah. Strange.
But it's just funny how, I don't know, I just found it funny. Now every time I walk around in downtown, you just see the sea of massive people, and those are all, if you just go back in time, someone was having sex.
Yeah, pretty much. And then you go very far back in time, you find out the universe was having sex with another universe and reproduced us.
Yeah, and then so like the reality that I'm accepting is we see the universe in smaller pieces. Like, what is the nature of reproducing, and what factor does it play in the universe? And then why do stars, even after they explode, reproduce into another star? You know what I mean? It's like I was trying to figure out a connection where reproducing, is that just everywhere in nature? If that's the case, it's this universe also has been reproduced by another universe, and so on. It just goes on forever. And then it happens in a larger scale and a smaller scale, and that's what life is.
Yeah, it definitely seems like it when you look at the universe, right? It seems like everything reproduces, and then it reaches a point, and then it goes back to entropy.
Right.
Everything goes back to like unproduction or something.
Right. I was gonna do some research on that and see if there are any ties with it. If someone's already tried to make some connections, because everything, if you look at, I don't know, we can point at anything from small to big scale. There's some sort of connection to it, and you can break it down to subatomic level and to this level, and whatever other levels there are. Like, if you look at atoms, their purpose is to find positive opposite attractions, and then they build into other molecules and they build into other just a building block. This I don't know. And then somehow like male and females are the opposite, but we're supposed to meet, and I don't know.
So there's like some new research on which is disproving the Big Bang Theory recently. Yeah. I'll send you a link to it. And what they were talking about was that it's starting to look like there was no beginning. There was no Big Bang. I forget the name, what they called it. They called it the Big something, but I just can't remember.
Big lie.
The Big Lie. But the whole idea is that, okay, if you go to the point of the Big Bang, or let's just say the beginning that we believe to be true right now, and you expand that space, right, you would get a universe which would have a lot of pockets of nothing and a lot of pockets of clump stuff, and it would be not very organized as it is right now. Because right now, if you look at the universe, it's very uniform. It's very uniform.
Okay.
But the problem is that when inflation happened at the beginning, everything expanded so rapidly that even pockets of nothing would have expanded into huge pockets of nothing right now. But we have a uniform universe. So what they are saying is, now this goes directly against the multiverse theory. Because the multiverse theory says that we have universes parallel to other universes, right?
Right.
So what this theory says is that those pockets of nothing that were present at the beginning expanded so big, because that's what you would expect. And now we only see the universe in our patch of the universe. And that if you go through all that nothingness, which we cannot, because it's a huge void,
Right.
and you go beyond that, you would come to another universe. And you go beyond another patch of emptiness, you would come to another patch. And they're all,
Shit.
if you go really far out, if you were like a god or something, and you could just look at this huge, vast, multi-universe patches,
Right.
or something, you would see them all next to each other with little spots of nothingness dividing them. But we cannot observe it. We only observe it as one universe, but we might be next to millions and who knows how many, but separated by voids of emptiness,
Yeah. So that.
which we call the horizon,
Yeah.
in a way,
Yeah. Damn.
which we think is the Big Bang, but it's not. It's actually, man, I wish I could remember the word.
So all of this always has been.
Yeah, it's always been, and then it contracts, becomes nothing, and then it becomes again everything, nothing and everything. It just goes through those cycles forever, and it always has.
So I was like the other day looking at because the other day I was just thinking about like what is the universe expanding into? In order for a universe to expand, there has to be something there to expand into, or is it creating the universe as it's expanding? So it's one of those two cases, right?
Yeah.
And just I don't know, this is kind of hard to imagine it expanding into nothing and it's creating. So even if the universe is nothing, right, the part of nothing, and that's expanding. So like a feet further away, there's nothing ever has been there. Now it's expanding into it. How does it do that? You know, like it's just kind of crazy. So then I was just looking into there's this cool shit. I think it was called PBS. Damn it. It was a really good YouTube channel. I'm gonna try to for the next podcast remember it, but plug it in because it's a cool channel for everyone to go in and look into. And this guy goes in. It's just about explaining physics and whatnot. So he had a whole like 12-minute videos of the expanding universe, and what he talks about is if you look at our galaxy is not expanding because we have gravity and laws of nature to keep stuff in play, but so our atoms don't go flying. But as soon as you get into the deep vacuum of space where there's nothing there, that's the part of the universe that's expanding, right? So our galaxy is not to the point where it might expand in the future, but right now everything that's expanding is just the empty voidness where there is no galaxy, there is no stars, there are just few there are atoms and whatnot around there, but that's the place that's expanding.
Right.
And then he goes and then he explains what expansion, the reason that the information or proof that we have that the universe is expanding is he explains like if you were to take a rocket or if you were to take an apple, right, and if I was to throw it in space, how much you have your potential energy and like kinetic energy and potential energy. So how much energy do I need to throw this apple so hard up in the sky that it leaves our atmosphere, then also leaves the Earth's gravitational pull? Because like no matter right now if I throw it, the apple is gonna fall right back down because the Earth's So the apple was at rest, but the potential energy was in my arm, and I just threw it up in the air. Maybe I'm saying that wrong, but whatever force I use, you need escape velocity. So the Earth's gravitational is pulling it. So once I figure out what the escape velocity is, I can build a rocket ship. I could build a cannon to shoot this apple out of the Earth's atmosphere, and then it'll get to a point where I can figure out that if I shoot it this far, the Earth can no longer pull it back. And what they realize is the universe expanding. He'll explain it better than I would, but I'll plug that in the next episode. But the universe expanding, and that's common sense. So they can measure how other planets and galaxies are flying away from getting further from one another, because that same formula applies. There could be only two types of universe: a universe that was expanding, but now is, I guess, like the push, is less than zero, so that means that it's going to collapse one day. Or if it's greater than zero, that means it's going to expand forever. So the way he explains it is like the way the Earth that they've calculated is greater than zero, so that means our universe will always expand forever, and the dark energy is making it accelerate faster than it ever did before.
Yeah.
So it's like throwing an apple up, but the apple is going up faster and faster and faster. It makes no sense. So then he talks about what dark energy is and how we don't understand it. But kind of ties back into what you were saying. There are these voids of nothingness, and they're expanding so far apart from one another that they probably become their own universes as a whole, right?
Yeah. Or they leave a gap where the universe are beyond it. Another universe exists beyond it, in a patch or something like that.
So it'd be just sub-universes in a sense, right?
Yeah.
And that's scary.
Yeah, it is. And they might have completely different laws of physics and stuff because they're so far apart now. They were basically built at birth, of the universe, and they expanded in their own regions, and they're not connected to us anymore.
But anything that expands just begs to ask the question: what the hell is it expanding into?
Yeah, and what is causing it to expand? Yeah. What is that energy? Is it the initial energy of the whatever we call the Big Bang? Was there that moment? Is the energy created at that point, which causes this incredible? Like, was dark energy created in that point, and now it's still going and expanding the voids and whatever?
Another crazy thing is, like, for the universe to be, there had to be some sort of it was if there is a Big Bang, then they talk about how there was different fundamental forces, and which one what war. So there was gravity and had to play. Then it became the weakest force. And then, is there a universe where gravity is the strongest force? And if that's the case, then maybe there is no universe that looks like this.
Yeah.
So there's all these different forces, and if there are infinite timelines, maybe some fundamental forces dominate and don't dominate, and you know what I mean?
Right.
That's how No Man's Sky was supposed to be, right? Like, have completely different. But no, what I'm saying is, like, what they did on a much, much, much smaller scale in No Man's Sky is they have different features and whatnot, and they attribute to each planet that's procedurally created in some way.
But it would still follow laws of physics that we understand. It was not that it will be just random, because it's trying to still be the Milky Way galaxy, if you will. It's not trying to be the universe. It's just trying to be a galaxy.
Yeah, it's not that creative.
So you're saying that there could be a world. It could be a universe where there are worlds where the gravity would be the strongest force, and where the creatures would have to adapt to to that kind of.
If gravity was the strongest force, maybe there will be no stars and planet, or I cannot. It's hard to explain, but I've just seen different videos that explain it, that gravity had to be the right force to collapse the gases in a certain way to start stars. And when stars started, and they had their own gravitational pull, which which start any rock that was orbiting it will catch it and put it in its orbit, and they collided, created planets.
But then when I start thinking of that, like when we see scientists explain that things had to be this way or that way and this way for this to happen, I always wonder, like, I mean, we're monkeys, right? Essentially, what do we really know about the universe? What do we know that there might be a universe there that's doing something completely different that we can't even imagine, and it leads to some kind of life that's so different from us that it doesn't need these type of laws, and it just adapts to those laws. It doesn't even have stars; it has something else that's even different than
right. So relativity would say just understand the universe that you can observe, and then come to conclusion to those.
Yeah.
And then it's just weird that why are stars the way they are? Why does each star have solar system? Like what is? That's all our universe is full with, is galaxies and stars.
Yeah.
And then empty space. Those are the three things. Why?
Yeah.
Why? It's just weird. Like, why are planets round? And obviously it's because it's to do with gravity and to keep everything in balance, because it's pulling down things equally. And then
right. And the why is the deepest question, right? I think that's the deepest question you can ask. Because when you answer it with gravity, then I can be like, why is that?
Yeah.
And then you can be like, why is that and that and that? You can go on forever and never answer it.
But the simple thing to look at is there's there's galaxies and there's these brown balls that are called suns, and there's nuclear energies that are happening, and they have these planets that go solar system to go about it, and that's the most dominant thing in the universe: stars, galaxies, and planets,
Right. And
empty space.
Yep. And the strangest thing is that when we go from the smallest stuff of quantum physics and we get to the big stuff, our physics completely changes.
Yeah.
And it just doesn't connect together. And we're still working on that problem.
Even things that we used to believe that, that all animals, everything requires sunlight to live. And just in our own world, that's not true anymore, because there's deep sea organisms that have no access to sunlight, and
they thrive.
And they thrive using something else like hydrothermal vents.
Yeah, man. Yeah, because they went to the deepest part of the ocean where they had those where the smoke comes out.
Yeah, hydrothermal vents. Yeah,
that's what they're called. Where they're so extremely hot that no life they thought could ever survive. But one is underwater, has no light. And there's a whole ecosystem down there with life just thriving down there.
And those things glow, so they adapted by creating lights in themselves.
Yeah,
it's insane.
So the other thing was I was reading when I was reading about light. There's this fish deep down in the deep sea. There is no light where the light can never reach. So fishes don't have eyes to begin with because it's a useless feature. Why your brain doesn't need eyes because it'll just be a waste of energy trying to perceive it. But there is a fish. Right underneath his eye, it has this red beam of light that it projects. But since all the other fishes don't have eyes and they can't see that light, when it's hungry, it turns that feature on and it projects like this red beam of light. And it has eyes, so it can see the reflection of its prey, and it'll know exactly where to go eat. So it uses that as an advantage to eat. Wow. But it's blind. The fish swims in pure darkness. When it's hungry, it'll turn that light on underneath his eye, and then it will beam any reflection of other predator and prey that it will see. It will go hunt them.
That's incredible.
Imagine if you were a fish and you did not see, and you just swam, because the closest replication of space is underwater. So you're a fish and you're just swimming in space pretty much, and you're just anywhere. So you're a conscience, and you cannot feel your body. I mean, you could feel your body, obviously, but you can't see what's in front of you, but somehow you know that you have hands and you got to do this to move in the space and to move forward. Like, how does that work?
What an alien reality, right? I mean, just imagine closing your eyes and just imagining that
you're underwater, and then you have no idea that you're underwater, and that this is your reality. You've never been outside of the water, so this is this is the true state of reality, and you've never seen your body. You've never seen the way you look. You're just a conscious. And all you're doing is you're using your energy to move forward and hunt.
Wow.
Hunt different atoms based on whatever skill set you have. That's so bizarre.
And since you've never had vision, you don't even have a concept of what seeing
or
means.
Sound.
Yeah.
Fish don't have a concept of sound. Another crazy thing about fish is when you kill let's say you kill a lion, you can see them struggle and scream for their life. When you kill a fish, you never hear them scream. Because they don't have sound. They don't need that feature in their bodies because it's pointless. They'd rather be a fish to swim, So they never develop that feature of sound or sound.
Maybe they don't even know that they're eating other fish. They just think they're eating food.
I mean, the only fishes that have dolphins and blue whales, they have sonar.
Yeah.
But other than that, majority of fishes don't generate any sound or have any ears. And then once you get into deep water, you take sight and sound away. Fuck this. Yeah. Just trying to imagine that right now.
They probably have their own. They probably have different senses. Like this one fish that you were just talking about does turn on the light to just detect its source of food. Yeah, I mean it's insane to think about.
The only thing I can picture is like a pure consciousness just floating and hunting.
Just through feeling.
Or whatever senses
it just moves through feeling. Or do you think it would have some kind of rudimentary sense, kind of like a daredevil or like a bat, where it would even though a daredevil or a bat even though it doesn't have vision, do you think it's kind of creating like some kind of strange colors and stuff, which
it would need something to hunt, right?
Yeah.
So whatever that is.
I wonder what the model of the world looks like for them if they're seeing something.
But I mean, we know more about space than we know about our underwater, and each time that we go a deep dive into the ocean, we always discover a new species.
Yeah. I mean, do you think we're able to, like, if you close your eyes right now and you think about seeing something, you can still see, right? Even without your eyes. But
we have that because we have the past history of it. So it's hard to imagine for us to what that would be even like.
That's what I'm saying. So without any context, what would they see? Or how would they see if they have no senses laying out any model?
They'd see nothing.
So they would just move all over the place just through like feeling.
They'll just know, okay, they'll just be like, okay, through their own experience, okay, last time I was here, I found something to eat, or last time I was here, it was more comfortable.
But where's here?
Here is like, oh shit.
Man, I wonder
maybe like, oh, you know, as I was swimming here, I felt like this weed or whatever, it's underwater seaweed thingy touched up against my right side. I don't know, man.
I guess we could look into it on our own time, but it would have to be that they would have to have some sort of sensors to detect.
They have markers of some sort.
But in order to be, nature's rule is if you can learn how to survive in my reality, I will reward you by living. So in order for them to be even alive up to this point, they have some sort of sensors to go hunt.
They figured it out.
Yeah. And then other ones have opposite sensors to know when they're coming and to run away. So it's just kind of bizarre. But it's kind of hard in our reality to imagine a world without sight and sound, and then you live in it, and it's deep down ocean, and that's equivalent of being in space. Yeah. And I always wondered, in space, in like the deep vacuum of space, are there animals like rocks that look like fishes that are flying around? You know what I mean? Yeah. Eating other rocks or other comets.
Wow. There's no other life.
And the funny thing is, the very fish that we find bizarre would find us bizarre as hell. That we have vision and sound. Like, what the hell is that?
Taste like?
Have you seen some of these pictures of these deep sea?
I was just looking at them.
It is so freaking frightening. They're probably the most scariest. You've never seen them?
No, I've seen some of them.
They're probably this. If folks at home want to Google like deep sea fish, whatever.
Look at this one. Oh my god!
They have the most. They're probably older than dinosaurs too. Yeah. So it's like the Dang.
What's going on?
Sorry, you guys have to see this one.
This is the one with giant teeth? Yeah, that one.
Whoa.
They look like they're possessed by like, the exorcism. Like you took like Nemo and you possessed it.
This is another one that has like a literally an antenna. It has a light bulb that hangs on top. Have you seen that fish?
I think I've seen that, yeah.
It's so crazy. And I think it's not like Cosmos, but it's one of those, I think Blue Planet or whatever, that shows that one episode about the deep dive of it's a universe on its own, and they show this fish, and when it's ready to hunt, it just turns on a fucking light bulb, and it helps
time to get it eaten.
The light of death.
Yeah, and it helps us see these predators, and then they show a lot of other jellyfishes that have, that one right there. Like that's so. Like how do you do that?
That is so funny.
How do you do that? Like you have an energy source of light bulb.
Yeah.
There's a Google image. It says, "Is this fish evil?"
It's so bizarre, and then that episode shows how that fish hunts.
Yeah.
And then they show it goes after like I think it was like what jellyfish looking like of things, and they have lights on their own.
Yeah.
And there's a bunch of jellyfishes that turn on like rainbow colors and they glow.
Yeah.
And the reason they do that is to attract people to come eat it, but then it ends up eating them.
Wow.
Damn, man.
Genius.
Abzu had so much potential, the underwater game.
Yeah.
But they just stuck with sharks, dolphins, and just like regular fish. You don't see anything as bizarre.
I really want to play the game. The game looks amazing.
Yeah. Graphics are ridiculous.
Yeah.
You still got to play Journey though first.
Yeah.
You got to play Journey first so you don't enjoy this one as much.
Don't let this game ruin Journey.
So real quick, a little bit about the mantis shrimp, which I still think is one of the most amazing.
It is. Definitely.
Just first off, just look what it looks like. First of all, it has 16 color nodes, right? And then look what it actually looks like. It's super colorful.
I saw that image. Is that image real, or is that
real?
Someone just
real.
turned into a like
a Metroid character or something?
Look at that. That's the mantis shrimp.
Wow.
I felt like that was photoshopped, but if that's real, that's amazing. So a shrimp looks like it has rainbow colors.
Yeah.
In fact, it has even more colors, but we can't see them.
It looks like it looks like a gay shrimp.
That's insane. That's funny that Shaz was saying that those fish are so smart that they evolved to survive. but evolution is what's really smart.
But I mean, isn't any species up to this point smart to begin with? Because you figured out.
I don't know. Are they?
Is
I don't know.
evolution God? You
No,
pray
but what
to
I'm
it, please give me this feature, and God's
No.
like,
No, but what I'm saying is it's not the species that are smart, but it's the system or the information that evolves them. Because something is giving it that information, right? It's giving it like something gave us eyesight. I didn't create eyesight. I didn't give myself vision or sound. Something gave it to me.
So the way I like to picture is it starts at a subatomic level, right? So you have, so like another thing to kind of backtrack this was like when me and my brother were having a conversation, I was telling him like the whole universe in a sense is kind of balanced. If it wasn't, then you wouldn't have a universe, right? So if you look at an atom, it has what protons and neutrons. They have 2 positive charge and 1 negative charge,
electrons,
right?
yeah.
Why doesn't it have 2 negative and 1 positive? So there is an alternate reality where it does have 2 negative and 1 positive. So if you want to understand the universe, start from like its fundamental aspects of it. So if you look at an atom, it has 2 positive and 1 negative charge, and you need that balance to start an atom. Without it, you would just have atoms that would just go and just disappear, I guess. So I guess the first state is to find some sort of formula that balances atoms together, and then you build. Then within those atoms, they want to find other particles, other atoms that they collide into, and based on formation that they form molecules, and then you just keep building that up.
Yeah.
And each state that they go up higher, it needs to be a state of balance. And then if it's not a balance, then it creates something else. It'll create the opposite. So.
And what is that force that's putting these configurations together and then comes at some state and it's like, all right, well, this one is failing. And then do you think a mutation just happens by chance? Or like, for instance, eyesight was a mutation, right? First time.
Yeah.
So where did that mutation come from? Did it just happen because it's an infinite world or whatever, and it's supposed to? Everything that's going to happen, it just happens?
Every evolution is. I think Cosmo explains it the best. Every evolution, every change in evolution has been a mutation in a sense, because like they show a really cool graphic of what DNA is, and when you're being reproduced, your parents and your DNA, your mother's and your father's DNA is being copied into one. As it's copying, I forgot what that thing was called, that where it's copying the DNA so that the kids can have
the chromosome, yeah.
Yeah, so like there's a part where that mechanism is copying the DNA where it stitches the things incorrectly.
Yeah.
And then you can have a brown bear turn into a white bear, and that white bear will thrive in the South Pole, and hence you have polar bears.
How fucking incredible is that? That something that happens by mistake leads to what's the most important thing, and which is evolution and change.
Yeah, so like...
So we should make mistakes more often.
Not us, our DNAs.
Yeah. Us too, though.
I'm already making mistakes.
In my life. My life's a mistake, guys.
I'm a mistake.
But this will lead to all of our evolution.
I'm a sacrifice.
Or the end.
But even that concept is kind of crazy. So if you take eyesight as a mutation,
right?
Like when that mutation happened and there was some mistake and it led to vision, why vision? You know what I mean?
Again, Cosmo explains that really good, and I'm gonna try to build on that. So what it shows is when we were single cell organisms underwater, the bacteria that was we were in like the bottom of the sea level ocean, whatever.
Sea level ocean. Sea level.
I also followed up with whatever. And so they used to feed on those single cell organisms or whatever those bacteria were. They used to feed on, I forgot what that thing was called.
Plankton.
I don't know. But when the sunlight would come out, it was easier for them to detect where those things were. So they would go up. When the sunlight came out, that means the predators were gone. So then these things would float up and they would feed. And as soon as the sun would go down, they had to go float down. Otherwise, the predators will come and eat them. And then there was some sort of freak genetic mutation where some of these bacteria evolved to sense. First, it started off as a sense where when the light would hit them, it would sense that the sunlight's on. They would just see a blur image of a feeling of that the light's there. So anyone that developed that would have a better chance of survival because they would know that it's time to go eat, rather the ones that just stayed there forever and died either of hunger or they went out at night and they got eaten by
Right.
predators, and then that slowly, millions and millions, if not billions of years, led to developing better and better, and the more their ancestors would die off, and anyone that had a mutation to see this light even more would have advantage of proceeding further and further.
Now I wonder if that initial sight-seeing mutation was intentional. Like, was it designed and it was triggered by sunlight? Or was there a cause and effect that there were some of these little things, they were hit by sunlight and some kind of thing happened which caused the mutation? And it wasn't as random as we think. What if mutation is actually by design, by nature somehow?
So I guess it becomes like becomes like a plus and minus thing again with proton. What's that, Richard Feynman?
Yeah.
Where he's describing like a drop of water, and he's saying if you look at a drop of water, why do they always curve in? Is because each atom wants a partner, and they want a buddy on each equal side, so they can, that's what they like to do. And when you see a drop of water, the reason it curves up is because every atom that's in the outside is trying to fight its way inside because it wants a buddy in each opposite direction. So like then if you look at an atom by itself, then we can go back into the charges of positive and negatives. Why is it, and I guess when the light hits, it has to do something with that, where there are just charges, and anyone that can understand this light is, this charge is coming in, that to sense it in a sense, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's kind of hard. Wish I was a scientist.
Right. No, but mutations are very interesting. I want to read more into that and see what correlations they can find with cause and effect, and what if there is a reasoning behind why this actually happens rather than just dumb luck, because it seems to lead to a lot of interesting things that have helped life evolve.
But isn't it all just dumb luck?
It could all be dumb luck. Yeah, could be.
It's just like a lottery after lottery after lottery after lottery. Because you have to go with our sun being the way it is, exploding and turning into a smaller sun, creating planets like Earth in that golden zone. That's a lottery. And then within that, you need to have so many comets that had full of water, hydrogen, all that shit. Banging it up.
Yeah, you might be right. There's more species that have become extinct than are alive, right? So it's not like they all got that mutation that they needed to survive. Most of them just died out.
Has there been a? Go ahead, finish.
No, I was just saying. So the ones that are alive are just a lucky few.
Has there been a mutation where it actually backfired?
Many of them.
Really?
You can probably Google some right now.
You can touch a new one because you're so sure.
I'm just saying because we know that most species have become extinct.
Yeah, the ones that
get
so I was gonna say the ones that are no longer here are the ones that backfired.
Yeah,
because they didn't evolve enough to thrive. And
they didn't get lucky.
So then I don't know. There was a year and a half ago, you asked that question, "What is nature?" And I think that's such a beautiful question because because I'm trying to understand these concepts, and then you understand that nature gives no shit about anything besides the only formula it kind of has is if you learn how to survive, I'll reward you with living.
Yeah.
And I don't care how you do it. It doesn't care if you take the peaceful method. It doesn't, it could be the most brutal way or it could be the nicest way. It doesn't care which route you go, but whoever has the highest advantage, it rewards them of continuing on and, spending and then, continuing on to exist.
Yeah.
You could be molecules, you could be atoms, you could be whatever. That's
right.
So just by describing that, so is nature bigger than universe, or does the universe create nature? You know what I mean?
It seems to, yeah.
Because if you go to if you kind of go to the Big Bang, everything that happened was nature there first, saying, "I will." If the gravity wins, or if the gases win, or if antimatter wins, or if matter wins, I'm gonna reward you with X, Y, and Z. So was nature there first, or is the universe creating nature?
It seems to me that nature would have to be there, and then the universe.
I never thought about that first. I'm just thinking about it.
Yeah, it's very interesting. So you're saying was nature already there, or did the Big Bang happen and nature came out of it with all these laws?
So like a UFC fight, if I'm nature, I already created like the rules of what the fight are, right? So these are you can score points X, Y, and Z way. If you knock out a guy, you win. If you submit him, you win.
Yeah.
So these are I'm nature, and these are the laws. And then the Big Bang will be two fighters coming in, and letting the best force win, right? So,
Right.
so was nature there first, or was big, laws of or did the universe create the laws of nature as it was?
That's a very good question. I have no idea.
I think it only makes sense that they both simultaneously emerged.
But then how
nature with the universe?
But how would, like, for example, when antimatter was fighting regular matter, like, why were they fighting to begin with? Like, what why did it matter which one thrived, which one?
And then when it didn't work out, when it did not go according to law, a mutation gave birth to the entire universe.
We're all mutants.
We just solved the
dude. But the funny.
That's an interesting question.
It totally is, man. I think we should research this and get back to it because it's a pretty deep question.
Yeah. Well, to understand Big Bang, just from my understanding or everything I read up to it, you read these things behaving a certain way and fighting to become the dominant force. Then why are they trying to become a dominant force? I mean, then the nature has to be kind of there to saying whoever becomes dominant, you get rewarded with this. Or are they just, again, acting off instinct and there is no such thing as nature? And that's...
And if you think of the universe just having... Oh, by the way, the name of that theory is the Big Bounce, where the universe comes to be and it always is. So it always is, and it contracts and expands, and it just
keeps bouncing.
Yeah, it just keeps becoming nothing and then everything over and over. So when you think of it that way, then that means nature exists outside of it, and it's working that formula and controlling it in a way. But the funny thing is that when we think about, let's just look at the...
That's weird. Okay, go ahead.
No, I was going to move to the Earth, so if you have something to say about that, go ahead.
Just, how you're saying nature is already there. Then who the fuck created nature, right?
Yeah.
Like,
nature created itself.
But then okay, let's say if God did create nature, right? But there has to be something else before that to say that God can only do these things based on these laws of nature. Like even...
Okay, so real quick, so if it's outside of our universe, outside of our realm, so that's what's pretty much coding the world. So it's like nature is the idea of God, no? But then who created nature? Then it's all...
For me, God is pretty much nature.
Yeah.
I mean, think about it just think about Earth, right? We talk about global warming and coal, and we're fucking up the world, driving all these cars. Now, guess what? We're not actually fucking up the Earth. We're screwing ourselves, because we can be gone. If we continue this way, we can be destroyed. We'll be gone. And then guess what? Another 1 billion years later, the Earth rebounds and it's doing all right. We're just gone.
I mean, it won't be, well, yeah. I mean, the Earth has mathematically about 4.5 billion years left, so we could be completely wiped out and be... But we might not be intelligent again. That's the only... this level of consciousness again. Ooh, this is going to another thing that I really wanted to talk about. So, like, how evolution of our species, right? So I was thinking about this the other day. Regardless of what part of the galaxy you are at, and if you are evolving to go explore outer space, does every species sooner or later have to invent the internet? Because what is internet? Internet was developed because when computers were first made, we were trying to create, how can I now have a computer, now I don't have to, we were trying to make storing information easier. Once I've done this, how can I share information from California to DC, via computer? How can they access this file from here to there? That's the whole process of, the creation of internet. And the reason why that was being also created is we want to go to the moon. We want to go out of space. How can we create computers that can communicate information via satellite or whatever? That's also, if any species that tries to understand the universe and tries to explore and go out of their own planet has to develop a technology where it communicates information. So a computer that reads, if a spaceship goes flying out, how are we going to communicate it when it's just gone, right? So you need to create a computer that can talk back and forth, and that in a sense is internet. Internet was not created to have websites and whatnot like that. The first websites were pretty much like, if you go to if you go to your computer and you go to My Documents and you have different folders, each folder is a website in a sense. So like if I go to google.com, I'm accessing a computer that we all share, and there's a folder called Google, and when I go to that specific folder, anything that's stored in that file I can access. That's what a website is. So I was just thinking, in order to this even ties into the Fermi paradox when we talked in our prior podcast. Any species that wants to travel out of space will one day or later and probably need to create a computer, also internet in order to do so, right?
Yeah, it sounds definitely.
Sounds feasible.
Yeah, I mean, all we have to judge is our own universe, right? Now, if you leave this universe, who knows what the hell you have to create for that universe? But yeah, in our universe, it seems like you would have to
unless
have
species can communicate through like telepathic way, I guess.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Actually, that's a cool way to think of it too. So another universe might use that.
Or I mean, within our universe, we could have species that can communicate without ever talking. Like, they can I can access your brain and think, read your waves exactly the way you're thinking, and but in general, I feel like they would have to evolve into computers because how would one species just leave their planet? They would. I mean, there's things out there that are trying to kill you, so you can't just fly out of it because you won't be strong enough to go through the the atmosphere. Maybe some species might be, but once you get up there, if you need oxygen, or if you need, I guess, how are you evolve?
Yeah.
Other things in space can kill you, so then you would need a rocket.
Who knows, man? What if there's some other alien species that, like you said, has telepathy, and they just think of something and they're all connected without the use of technology, and we're all just connected in one big consciousness,
like trees.
Yeah. Dude, did you listen to that?
Listen to
the
what?
Radio Lab on trees?
No, I did not.
Oh my god!
But I mean,
that's insane.
But I mean, that's kind of what Avatar kind of builds into too. How each tree is connected and they talk to one another.
That movie in IMAX 3D is one of the greatest experiences I've ever had.
Yeah,
that was like you literally felt like you were in that world, man. Wow,
it's unbelievable.
Yeah.
The fact that there's a forest underground. Just the same forest we see above ground, there's one underground, and it's all connected. And the way water and resources move along those routes. So if there's a tree that doesn't have resources, the bigger trees will just allocate those resources to the smaller ones. So they all
help with the fungi though.
Fungi get into it a lot too. If you listen to the Radio Lab, it's like they get into that whole thing. I kind of forget the connection, but they do talk about how it's all related together. Yeah.
I don't know. I thought it was a cool thought that in order for any species to travel out of space, you need internet.
Yeah.
Or if not even internet, you need computers, because even if you create a rocket ship and you fly out, how does that one species communicate with one another? And you need computers, you need satellites, you need to understand different waveforms that you can communicate once that platform has left.
Definitely. Internet's almost like going further in, because fundamentally you would have to understand mathematics, and then you would get into computers.
We're heading towards the right direction.
It seems so. It also looks like that we might just destroy ourselves.
Yeah, from the paradox.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. It's cool.
It is strange that we don't see anything in the night sky. And we're a young planet. So if you look at, like, when we talked about the Fermi paradox, the idea that there's planets that are far, far, far older than us. By billions and billions of years. So if life is very probable, they would have evolved on those planets, and we would see some evidence of it, but we see absolutely nothing.
Look, going back to No Man's Sky, like when you visit each planet, one thing that has common, each one has a fungus. Like each one has mushrooms. Any planet that had ever had life had mushrooms, and that's basing it off this planet, because in order for this planet to ever have oxygen, it needed fungus that don't need oxygen to help create that ecosystem you're talking about underground, where they help these trees, they build a symbiotic relationship with these trees and help them, get resources, because they look like a bunch of spider webs underground, and they can connect to roots of all trees, and trees will give them sugar, in return they'll give it, water. So certain trees their roots can reach only a certain length, and once they run out of water, if it was to rain, these fungus could just take water from different areas or rivers or ponds, and they can just, like a highway map, just travel it and give it to that tree in return of sugar, and that tree will grow and, have other trees grow next to it, and then that process times a billion years will create oxygen.
Yeah.
That oxygen will create, help the single level organisms thrive, and so forth, and you come up to here. So without mushrooms, we would not be here.
Our new god, the fungi.
It's crazy.
Yeah. Fun guys, those guys.
Yeah, mushrooms are amazing. Oh, shit.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, very much. I wish we did more research into those psychedelics, man. It'd be interesting to see what do you think? Like when you take one of those, are you researching your own mind? Are you going deep into your own mind, or are you maybe communicating with something else out there also?
I always felt like you were going deep into your own mind.
Into your own mind, yeah.
I don't know.
Like people come back with answers that they never had before. How does that happen? Or do you think the answer is always there?
You just realize it.
I think you just become more open to it. Like when we had that topic about free will, and obviously you in a sense you kind of had your own conclusion of it. So then it's harder to be, not saying you, but in general, like when there's two sides and you are automatically favor your own side.
Yeah.
And even though you're open minded and whatnot, it's just, I don't know. It's just when you explore psychedelics, it makes you more. It dissolves the ego more than anything, and then makes you more open minded to everything. And then you
Simply, open minded, more thoughts are going in.
You're open minded.
If you're closed minded, obviously thoughts can come in that you don't accept. So.
You heard about that ancient tribe that lives in some South American forest, which has no concept of I.
What do you mean has no concept?
They have no language or word for I or me. They have no I, so they have no concept for it. They basically think of themselves and the forest as the same thing. They just think of themselves as an extension of the forest. They're all just one. They don't understand that they're separate from the forest.
What part of?
Some South American tribe.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Shaz? You can hear him typing. That's weird, man. Then those people, then you have the ayahuascas and shit.
The Piraha people.
That's what they're called?
Yeah.
That was fast.
It's crazy what Google is. You just type in a few words and you get answers.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, they're the answers that we know of now, but that's still pretty remarkable. You can just, it's just the access of information that we have is just ridiculous. Yep. And then if we don't destroy ourselves, we just keep going back to that again. It's just like any question I have, like if you're feeling sick, you can write your symptoms in and it'll tell you what's happening to your body.
Usually they tell you have cancer or AIDS.
You die.
You go to WebMD, people say do not go to WebMD.
Why?
Every time you put your symptoms in, it comes out with the craziest shit. You're like, holy shit.
You have 24 hours to live.
Please enjoy.
Don't worry, you're all right. You're all right.
You have 2 to 3 days to live.
Yeah, that stuff is crazy.
Oh man, a few days ago I had this. I don't know. I'm crazy. Not crazy, but I'm crazy. But I kind of pictured my own death. Like I pictured that I was on my own deathbed and my time. Like I was just thinking of the future. Like either one, either you die in a freak accident and you don't know you died, or two, you're sitting in a bed and your doctor tells you have a day or 2 days to live. So I was picturing that the fact that I was in a bed and someone's telling me I have just 2 or 3 days to live, and then there's that realization of, again, I had a slice of time, and my time's almost up. And then, each day I wake up, I know my time's almost up. But that day when the doctor tells you you have a day or 2 to day live, that for sure your time's almost up, and then how precious your time truly is. And it kind of makes me mad that I don't do enough with it. Like I don't take advantage of it. That I resort to the same things each day. It's kind of hard to be in a cycle where going to work is cool, but then understanding how much time is really taking away from time makes me sad. Then when I come home, then the time I'm spending with my daughter, it's not enough, and then when she goes to bed, and then now I have me time, and that time is not enough. And then what I do with my me time is to resort to TV shows or resort to science shows or documentaries, and I realize that I don't go out enough. I don't know.
You never have enough time for anything.
You don't have enough time for anything, and then I come to a battle of am I using my time wisely? Because I'm gonna be gone soon, right? So then when I'm playing No Man's Sky, is this a valuable time that I'm spending, and then then I resort to it. Then I have to answer this.
You know what I'm just thinking this whole time? I'm like, is it valuable that you're spending time thinking this?
I think the way I judge it,
you wait your time, bro.
the way I judge it is simply you just place, that are you happy or are you not happy doing what you're doing?
That's where I was getting to it.
It's worth it.
That's where I was getting to it, because then I was like, man, I feel like sometimes I watch too much TV shows. Like as soon as my daughter goes to sleep, okay, let's play a TV show before I have to wake up tomorrow, right? Let's watch something. And then TV's gotten so good that you appreciate the art of it. Not only the art and the concepts and like the directing and like what they're trying to perceive and tell you and make you feel. You appreciate that so much of it, and how far technology's come for you, and you to allow that and stream it, and all these things that tie to it. I think I got all of it, but then again, I don't know. Then I'm just thinking now, is that even?
I mean, the way I see it, I don't think there's any right or wrong way to spend time there, and it simply comes down to mindset. Like you were talking about that whole sun and nuclear fission thing happening when you see light, right?
Yeah.
So, for instance, imagine you're driving in traffic and you stop at and the traffic is backed up really bad, right?
Yeah.
And you're stuck in traffic now. And then you see like the sunlight is just bouncing off like your mirror and right into your face.
Yeah.
So that's really annoying. So you can choose to get really frustrated and be like, wow, now I'm wasting my time. I'm stuck here. I could have done this or that. Or you could just think about how, like you were saying, what the sun had to go through and what all that crazy shit, nuclear fission had to happen for that moment of light to bounce and hit your eyes and annoy you in that moment. And so, if you change your mindset, I think there is no right or wrong way to really spend your time.
Right. And that's how I usually have been living my past, more so like ever since my daughters were born. And then there was this other day when I was coming home and I was in the subway of the Blue Line, and it was the most trippiest thing I ever experienced. It was so packed that you have to stand, and I was standing facing the window, but since we were underground, it was dark, and that the light when I was looking at the glass, which would be a window, but since we were underground, it was all pitch black, obviously inside a tunnel, right? So light inside the train that was bouncing off my face, hitting the mirror, and then bouncing back. So as we were going to the train, I was just seeing, I was just seeing these flashes of myself because the train is going so fast. And every time it would come, because there's lights in the tunnel. So every time it will come through a light, my reflection will go away. Then as soon as it passes the light, my reflection will come back. So it was going so fast where I just see images of myself reflecting and not reflecting. It was just a glimpse, and I was just looking at myself, and I just got so lost that, everything had to go right for this time, for me to, this reflection of me, it's also a slice of me in this time, and it'll never come back. I will never look this way. Each second that passes by, I'll never look the same. I've aged. I'm going towards. I'm kind of in a train ride towards my death, if you will. And then each reflection I'm seeing it's a past image of me, and this is what time is. I'm just a passenger.
Yeah.
And that flashes of just me, which is crazy. Just to look at yourself in the mirror and realize that's you and that's how you look. Is you're a collection of atoms that are thinking this is how you look, and it just I don't know how to explain it.
No, I know what you're saying. Yeah.
It's pretty trippy to see yourself reflected in time.
Yeah, that's incredible.
That's pretty cool to see yourself reflected in time.
Yeah, and if you want to learn more about time and how crazy it can be, watch 12 Monkeys.
What, the movie or the TV show?
The TV show. That shit is crazy, man. You've never seen time like this. The way they go really deep into its aspects.
Damn.
Nutty show.
It's been canceled, or did they finish off?
I think there's one more season. It's continuing, even though the ratings aren't that great. I think it's a little too hardcore. I can see the normal person not enjoying it, but if you're into those concepts, it's fascinating.
Yeah. I don't know. I'll check it out.
Yeah.
I don't have enough time.
It's true. And on that note,
we out of time.
We out of time today.
Shaz got to clock out. We're paying him by the hour.
All right. Peace out.
All right, guys. Take it easy.
Peace.